Outside the Buddha's trial pagoda, the atmosphere became perfectly silent to the point a falling pin could be heard. Deathly silence. It was boundlessly silent, as no one said a word and everyone's mind was in a state of shocked daze. Since Xianxia went into battle with Su Jiao and the 100-plus Su clan disciples, the gazes of everyone present had descended onto this battlefield. On one side was the 100-plus Violet Palace realm cultivators of the Su clan that represented the entire elite forces of the Su clan's younger generation. In other words, they represented the future of the Su clan, and every one of them would possibly grow into a great figure that was extraordinary. On the other side was Xianxia, Chen Hao, and the 7 young disciples of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect. There was no need to say anything about Xianxia, as his current reputation in Dragon Lake City was like the sun in the midday sky. Chen Hao wasn't a well-known figure, but since he'd already cultivated to the 7th star of the Violet Palace realm and mastered righteous sword insight, he was obviously an unsurpassed genius. Furthermore, amongst those 7 Wandering Cloud Sword sect disciples, Fei Lingcue was a leading figure in the younger generation of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect and was a genius young girl that was known to all in Dragon Lake City. Which of the people present wouldn't pay attention to such an extravagant lineup? As expected, the battle was brutal and full of ups and downs, and it could absolutely be called the most interesting battle since the Hidden Dragon rankings started. A battle that was bound to be recorded in the history books of Dragon Lake City. In this battle, there was the lofty and mighty righteous sword insight, the peerless and ferocious azure violet dual blades that sealed 1,000 leagues in ice, and the Tri-Water Go prison formation that was sufficient to annihilate a Golden Core realm cultivator. But in terms of the most dazzling and most striking, it would surely be Xianxia without a doubt. His combat expertise, strategy, and the strength he exerted were all brilliant and formidable beyond expectations, and it took one's breath away repeatedly and lead a person to endless meaningful afterthoughts. When they saw him being confined by the myriad of chains, everyone thought that he would die for sure. Yet when he broke open the chains and stood up, everyone understood that Xianxia had been concealing his strength since the beginning, like a lone wolf that bore patiently and revealed his fangs at the most dangerous moment. School of Fiend God Body Refinement. Shaman Energy. A large palm print divine ability that covered an area of 300 m. As they watched the Su clan disciples die tragically under the terrifying palm print, as they watched Xianxia slaughter in all directions like an ancient fiend god, and as they watched him turn around a hopeless situation by himself, all of this was so shocking, so unbelievable. It caused the people present to not dare believe their eyes. Only at this moment did they understand that not only was Xianxia a chi refinement genius that had comprehended Tao insight, he'd even dual cultivated in the school of Fiend God Body Refinement to the Violet Palace realm already and mastered an extremely terrifying divine ability. Only when Su Jiao left the Buddha's trial pagoda with hatred in her heart did this battle finally draw to a close. But to the people present, every scene of this battle and every small detail still replayed in their minds, and they were speechless for a long time. At the age of 17, his cultivation has attained the Violet Palace realm in both chi refinement and body refinement, and his cultivation in the martial Tao is at the Tao insight stage. This fellow is virtually a genius of a monstrous level. He schemes ruthlessly, and his strategy was meticulous, to the point it took every possibility into account. If a freak that's proficient in both strategy and combat were to grow up, how outstanding would he be? I wonder what other trump cards he hasn't revealed. With this fellow's disposition, he would absolutely not reveal all of his trump cards. After an unknown amount of time, the silent crowd burst into an uproar and various waves of sounds sounded out explosively. The variety of topics all revolved around Xianxia, causing the crowd to seem full of extreme noise and excitement. On the Jade platform, the expression of the Su clan's patriarch, Su Jintian, had already become gloomy to a shocking degree, and his expression was extremely savage as his body emitted dense killing intent that was utterly impossible to be concealed. At this moment, Su Jintian was like a volcano that was about to erupt. None of the nearby leaders of the various powers went to provoke him, and there was no way to find out what he was thinking in his heart. After all, anyone was able to perceive that the 132 Su clan disciples were almost the entire elite force of the Su clan's younger generation. Losing almost 100 of them in a short moment could be said to have greatly injured the Su clan, to the point it was an injury of the bones. It was even to the extent that an embarrassing situation of having no one to succeed the Su clan might occur, and if it really was like this, then the Su clan was not far away from decline and annihilation. Unfortunately, I only killed 97 people, and there are still another 35 that crushed their transportation talismans and fled. Xianxia sighed to himself. His gaze swept past the pools of mush on the floor before swinging his sleeve to collect the storage magic treasures that were left behind on the ground. After counting all the storage rings, bracelets, belts, there was actually 73. A man can't be rich without a windfall, just like a horse won't get fat without eating grass all night. Our forefathers were telling the truth. These fellows are all Su clan Violet Palace realm cultivators, and the wealth within their storage magic treasures ought to be extremely abundant, yet it has instead benefited me. She didn't check the things within the storage magic treasures and instead put them all away. Even though the Su clan disciples had either died or fled, the great battle from before had instead drawn countless pairs of eyes to spectate. With Xi's divine perception, he'd noticed over 1,000 people concealed in the surroundings. Thus, this moment wasn't the time to check his spoils. Most importantly, he could easily flee, yet the true essence of Chun Hao and the other Wandering Cloud Sword sect disciples had arrived at the state of being dried up. At this moment, if someone took advantage of their weakness after the battle, it would be troublesome. Let's leave this place first. She swept the surroundings with his gaze before flicking his sleeve, and a treasured vessel appeared out of thin air. Then it carried Chun Hao and the others to tear through the clouds and fly towards an extremely distant place. This treasured vessel was given to him by the old Turtle King, and it was a magic treasure. Not to mention its speed being extremely swift, it was even able to withstand the full force strike of a perfection stage Violet Palace realm cultivators, and it was sufficient to be used in the first layer of the pagoda. This fellow's strength is truly terrifying. He actually dual cultivated in chi refinement and body refinement. Looks like I must be careful when I encounter him the next time. But my incorporeal sword insight has already achieved mastery, and I'm naturally unafraid of him as well. Not long after Xianxia left, on a nearby small hill, a young man who wore a scholar's headdress revealed himself. His brows were dark black like ink, his eyes bright like a hawk, 3 swords hung on his back, and his entire body was filled with a fierce and arrogant aura. At this moment, he was looking at the treasured vessel that had disappeared in the distant horizon, and he frowned as he silently pondered deeply. If someone was here, they would surely be able to recognize the identity of this person. He was precisely the one called Incorporeal Sword, Qiulang, a dazzling genius figure that was from one of the 8 great sects, the Azure Sun sect. Let's go. The strength of this person is far from something we can defeat. If we're unlucky and encounter him, it's better not to offend this person, and we should flee if we can. Fortunately, we hadn't made a move yet. Otherwise, we'd surely suffer the same fate as the Su clan disciples. Remember, we must not make an enemy out of this person in the Buddha's trial pagoda. It wasn't just the incorporeal sword, Qiulang, who was spectating the battle from nearby. There were also disciples of the various great powers who'd seen Xianxia turn around the battle by himself, and a storm of shock and fear had arisen within their hearts long ago. How would they dare have the thought of taking advantage of Xianxia after he just finished a battle? All of them turned around and left right away, and they utterly didn't dare chase after Xianxia's treasured vessel. In a concealed gorge, a treasure vessel swiftly descended, then Xianxia, Chun Hao, and the others walked down and entered into a concealed crack in the rock at the side, and behind the crack in the rock was surprisingly a natural cave. Xianxia's gaze sized up the surroundings for a while before nodding slowly. If it wasn't for his divine perception being exceedingly strong, he would really be difficult for him to know that a cave existed here, and it was extremely suitable to be used for recuperation. Chun Hao, you, Miss Fei, and the others should make the best use of your time and recover your strengths. If I'm not wrong, we might be transported to the second layer of the pagoda later. Xianxia instructed. Okay. Chun Hao nodded. He knew as well that the 2,000 cultivators that were able to enter the second layer, the Four Symbols layer, were all outstanding figures that had experienced slaughter after slaughter to emerge from the numerous participants. If he wanted to defeat them and enter into the third layer, the Yinyang layer, in the end, then recovering his strength was the most pressing matter at the moment. Fei Lingzue and the others knew that the situation was pressing as well and didn't say anything further. At this moment, all of them admired Xianxia's cultivation extremely, and it could be said they would act upon anything Xianxia said. They sat down cross-legged right away before taking out some spirit liquid to start circulating their cultivation techniques and recover their strength. Ling Bai, properly guard the entrance to the cave. I need to recover for a while as well, said Xianxia via voice transmission. Leave it to me. I guarantee I'll kill anyone that comes. Ling Bai has already become extremely bored from staying in the storage ring. He flew to the entrance of the cave with raging killing intent when he heard Xianxia, and his little body stood ramrod straight. Ling Bai's cultivation was sufficient to be on par with a Golden Hall realm cultivator, and he himself had inherited the supreme Nirvana sword Dao of his master. In this pagoda where the highest cultivation was only at the Violet Palace realm, he was simply a supreme existence, and with him guarding the entrance to the cave, Xianxia was naturally able to be extremely at ease. Xianxia didn't waste any more time. He found a place to sit down cross-legged before taking out a bottle of spirit liquid and circulating the ice crane technique, and then he closed his eyes as he recovered his strength. 3 hours later, Qian Hao, Fei Lengzue, and the others successively awoke from their recuperation. They had clear gazes and were brimming with energy and vitality, and their strengths had actually somewhat improved. Obviously, experiencing the soul-stirring fierce battle from before had brought about an extremely great beneficial effect to their cultivations. This was the charm of live battle, as after one experienced numerous baptisms from the flames of battle, it would be strange if one's strength didn't improve. What cultivation technique does your older brother cultivate? It's actually more profound than the wandering cloud black hole technique that we cultivate. Fei Lengzue looked over. She saw the surroundings of Chen. She who sat cross-legged on the ground was suffused with a profound ice aura that seemed like a layer of ice crystals, and every breath he took was long, continuous, and possessed ample strength. It was like he was swallowing and spitting out an ice dragon that whistled out in the sky as it moved about with a myriad of phenomenon left in its wake. Chen Hao shook his head and said, I and my brother have already not seen each other for 2 years. He was at the 3rd level of the congenital realm 2 years ago, and he cultivated the violet sky arts that was passed down from my clan ancestors. As for what cultivation technique he's cultivating now, even I don't know. He was only at the 3rd level of the congenital realm 2 years ago. It wasn't only Fei Lengzue. Even the other 6 Wandering Cloud Sword sect disciples were shocked in their hearts when they heard this, and a wisp of shock suffused their faces. Looks like your brother ought to have acquired a great fortuitous encounter. In the time of 2 years, he's attained the 6th star of the Violet Palace realm and a body refinement cultivation at the Violet Palace realm as well. Such natural talent. Even I am unable to compare to him. Fei Lingzue shook her head and spoke in self-ridicule. Senior sister, who doesn't know that you're only 17 now, yet you've already stepped into the 9th level of the Violet Palace realm, and you're even soon to condense an icy snow Dao territory that belongs to you. Who in our Wandering Cloud Sword sect is able to compare to you? The disciples called Qing Luo spoke out, and his voice carried heartfelt admiration. I can't compare to Chen Hao. He's only entered the sect for 2 years, yet he's already cultivated from the congenital realm to the 7th level of the Violet Palace realm, and he has even comprehended the righteous sword Dao that's one of the top Dao insights in the heaven and earth. Chen Hao will probably become one of the 36 elite disciples of our Wandering Cloud Sword sect in a few years. Fei Lengzue looked at Chen Hao and smiled as she spoke. Yeah, junior brother Chen Hao's natural talent can indeed be said to be extraordinary, and it's truly enviable. The others nodded as well. Extraordinary? So long as you cultivate bitterly and diligently and wholeheartedly seek the Dao, then anyone can achieve it. To become a so-called genius, besides natural talent, diligence and hard work are the most important. Xianxia woke up from his meditation, and he spoke with a smile on his face. He'd already recovered all of his true essence now, and he faintly had the feeling that he would soon break through. He knew that it wouldn't be long before he'd surely step into the 7th star of the Violet Palace realm. Moreover, after absorbing the energy of the stars from 2 star soul meteorites, the shaman energy within his body had become even denser, but there was still quite a distance before he could advance to the next level. Based on my calculations, a few hours have already passed since we entered the 8 Directions layer. After a period of battle, the cultivators in the 8 Directions layer at this moment are probably not far away from the number of 2,000. Let's wait here, as it's better to conserve and store up our strength. Xianxia spoke slowly. However, right when he just finished speaking, a special vortex abruptly appeared in the sky above every single one of them, and a tremendous suction's force swept out. In the next moment, Xianxia and the others had all vanished on the spot. Obviously, amongst the 10,000-plus Violet Palace realm cultivators that had entered the 8 Directions layer, over 8,000 had already been eliminated now, and all the remaining 2,000 cultivators had been transported into the 2nd layer of the pagoda, the 4 Symbols layer. High above in the sky, Xianxia looked down at the ground, and the entire expanse of ground that covered an area of 5,000 kilometers seemed to have been divided horizontally and vertically to become an enormous character. At the center was a towering high platform that covered an area of 500 kilometers. It led up layer by layer, and it was completely pitch black as if it was constructed from black-colored jadestone. When looked at from afar, this high platform was like a sacrificial platform used by barbaric people of ancient times to offer sacrifices to their gods and ancestors, and it emitted a desolate, mysterious, and solemn aura. At its corners that faced the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west, was respectively filled with the scene of a world of ice and snow, a golden mountain range, a jade-green forest, and a sea of lava. This place was the 2nd level of the Buddha's trial pagoda, the 4 Symbols layer. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the extreme distance, numerous flying lights swiped down from the sky before descending on the ground of the lands that represented the 4 symbols, and they vanished in the blink of an eye. In the 4 Symbols layer of the pagoda, 1,900 of the 2,000 cultivators that entered had to be eliminated, and only 100 cultivators were able to enter the 3rd layer, the Yinyang layer. These 100 cultivators would be the people who were ranked in the first 100 of the Hidden Dragon rankings. Looks like the competition is becoming more and more brutal. Fortunately, the members of the Su clan have practically been completely wiped out, and they're already unable to bring about any threat to me and Chun Hao. Moreover, I've given Chun Hao a new transportation talisman from those that I obtained from the Su clan disciples, so I don't have to worry about his safety. Xianxia silently pondered for a moment. Then his figure flashed right away to descend towards the jade-green forest. Compared to the other places, the jade-green forest was undoubtedly the safest place to stay in. However, unexpected to Xianxia, all 2,000 cultivators that entered the 4 Symbols layer seemed as if they had a tacit understanding amongst each other, and all of them had chosen this jade-green forest as the place to stay. It seemed that these people were similar to Xianxia, and all of them felt that this place was extremely safe. The other 3 places were either a sea of flames with rolling lava, an icy land with ice that wreaked havoc as it covered the sky, or a place with an environment that was too adverse, and a slight mistake would even bring danger to one's life. Xianxia. It's actually Xianxia. Let's go. We aren't a match for him. Damn it. Why is it this maleficent existence? The instant Xianxia descended onto an empty space in the jade-green forest, the few cultivators that had arrived long ago instantly started crying out as if they'd seen a terrifying monster, and they flashed towards the surroundings as if they were fleeing. I never imagined that I was already so well known. Xianxia rubbed his nose and laughed at himself. But in this way it instead allowed him to be much more at ease. There was a benefit of having a name that inspired fear. Cultivators with comparatively weaker strengths would utterly not dare go against him, whereas cultivators with formidable strengths would have to weigh the price they'd have to pay before making a move against him. In this way, it was equally valuable as a strong point for both offense and defense, and he completely didn't have to worry about the tiring situation of being attacked from all directions. Right at this moment, he suddenly felt a strand of faint second-wood aura. Although this strand of aura was light and wispy, it was pure to the extreme, and it even caused the shaman energy in his entire body to become aroused. Could it be that a treasure that's full of second-wood chi exists here? Xianxia thought in his heart, and then his figure flashed out instantly to search for the source of the strand of aura. His universe stars layer bodyforging arts had been cultivated to the second level, the second-wood realm now, and not only was the shaman energy in his entire body filled with the baleful chi of the stars, it even contained second-wood chi and fifth-earth chi. After all, his shaman energy was converted from the baleful chi absorbed by his second-wood shaman marking and fifth-earth shaman marking, so it naturally possessed the attributes of all these energies. If he wanted to break through from the second level of the Violet Palace realm to the third level of the Violet Palace realm, there were two ways to go about it. The first was to ceaselessly convert baleful chi of the stars into second-wood shaman energy, and the other way was naturally to directly find some treasures that contained second-wood essence and use it to cultivate. At this moment, when he found out there might be a treasure that contained second-wood essence in this jade-green forest, it naturally caused Xianxia to be tempted extremely. 10 minutes later, Xianxia stopped at the center of this jade-green forest, and his gaze instantly descended onto a large tree. This large tree was 300 m in height, its branches like swords and sabers, and it was firm and unyielding with a coiling and strong trunk. It was completely bald from top to bottom without a single leaf, utterly devoid of any vitality, and it didn't fit in with the green and luxurious ancient trees in its surroundings. The instant he arrived here, Xianxia smelled a strand of second-wood chi that was dense and pure to the extreme, whereas the source of this aura was surprisingly the bald large tree before his eyes. I wonder what exactly this thing is. It's obviously completely bald, yet it emits such dense second-wood chi. Xianxia silently pondered for a moment, yet he couldn't wrap his head around it. Since it's like this, then I'll pull it up by the roots, and then I'll completely absorb the second-wood essence within it for the sake of making preparations to break through to the third level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement. A trace of ruthlessness flashed within Xianxia's eyes. As he spoke, he flicked his sleeve to shoot out a strand of vast true essence that transformed into an enormous hand that was 30 m in size before firmly gripping onto the trunk of the large tree, and then he suddenly exerted strength to pull it out. However, what shocked Xianxia was that this tree actually didn't budge an inch. After all, this grabbing movement of his was even able to pick up an enormous rock that was 50,000 kilograms in weight, yet it wasn't able to do anything to a tree. How could it possibly not cause him to feel shocked? Grand Astral Palm. Grab! Xianxia gritted his teeth, and an enormous hand that emitted a desolate, ancient, and vast aura appeared out of thin air to grab onto this tree before fiercely pulling it. This large tree that was completely bald still didn't budge an inch. Xianxia was completely stunned. The Grand Astral Palm was his strongest trump card, and with a single squeeze, there was no problem for it to cause a yellow-rank magic treasure to shatter. However, it was still unable to do anything to this tree. Could it be that this tree is a divine wood of legend? Xianxia had heard before that during the primordial era, there were numerous divine woods, like the great mulberry tree that shot into the clouds, like the sun tree that had numerous sun fruits hung on it, but he'd never heard or seen anything like the bald large tree before his eyes that emitted dense second-wood chi. Xianxia was unwilling to give up. He withdrew a flying sword to hack and dig out the roots on the ground, and he even wanted to break off the branches of this large tree. Yet he returned empty-handed. What should I do? Could it be that I have to cultivate my second-wood shaman energy here? Xianxia frowned as he bitterly pondered without end. There were over 1,000 cultivators roaming freely in this jade-green forest, and if he were to cultivate here, it would be no different than courting death. That kid isn't killing others, yet he's going against a tree. He's truly strange. He actually wants to take the nameless divine wood. He's truly ridiculously overrating himself and laughably doesn't know his own limits. Yeah, that nameless divine wood has been standing erect in the Buddha's trial pagoda for an unknown amount of years, and there have even been innumerable people that wanted to refine it. But in the end, didn't they all return empty-handed? Talking about this nameless divine wood, after so many years, there's actually no one that knows of its origins. Isn't it peculiar? It isn't only this nameless divine wood. Aren't the Vermilion Bird area's nameless fire crystal, Black Tortoise area's nameless water pearl, And the White Tiger area's nameless metal rock the same? There's no way to investigate their origins. Yet all of them emit dense second wood, third fire, ninth water, and seventh gold essence. It's such a pity. No one was able to obtain such treasures for 1,000 years, and needless to say, it's regretful. Outside the pagoda, everyone looked with puzzlement at Xianxia, who ran up and down around the large tree, and all of the revealed expression of knowing not whether to laugh or cry, and they recalled some bits of matters related to the Four Symbols layer. Look quickly. The Wandering Cloud Sword Sex Fei Lengsue and the Azure Sun Sex Incorporeal Sword, Qiuleng, have started fighting. These two people are both the leading figures in their sex. How can we miss such a battle? A surprised exclaim suddenly sounded out from the crowd, and then the gazes of everyone present moved away from Xianxia and shot towards the battle between Fei Lengsue and Qiuleng. Even the various leaders on the Jade platform couldn't restrain their curiosity, and their gazes shot in unison towards the battle. At this moment, there was actually no one that was paying attention to Xianxia anymore. If I have the second wood chi of this large tree, then why should I worry about advancing to the third level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement? I truly wish for nothing more than to swallow it into my stomach. A flash of inspiration emerged in Xianxia's mind. Swallow into my stomach? How could I have forgotten about this little fellow? Bai Kuei, go. Bite off the roots of this large tree. Xianxia casually called out Bai Kuei. This little fellow was an infant Pishio that ate all the rare treasures in the world. And if even Bai Kuei was unable to do anything to this large tree, then Xianxia would really have to give up. Woo-woo. When he heard Xianxia asking him to bite a tree's roots, Bai Kuei glared bitterly at Xianxia. However, in the next moment, his gaze was attracted by the large tree before Xianxia. It was as if he'd seen a top delicious delicacy in the world, and the little fellow howled as he pounced over. Kacha! Kacha! Bai Kuei's teeth were sharp, to the point it made one's hair stand on end. With a single bite, he'd torn off a large piece of the tree's root, and it wasn't long before the coiling roots were actually bitten off one by one and swallowed by Bai Kuei into his stomach. That little stomach that was the size of a fist was simply like a bottomless hole, and it easily digested everything. Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief at long last, and he stared concentratedly at Bai Kuei, waiting for the moment Bai Kuei bit off all the roots to swing out his hand and put away this miraculous large tree. Kacha! Bang! Bai Kuei lived up to Xianxia's expectations, and this 300 tall, large bald tree had its roots completely bitten off by Bai Kuei before crashing to the ground. However, what shocked Xianxia was that after it lost its roots, this large tree's trunk actually transformed into bits of wood and powder with a speed that was visible to the eye, and then it drifted down to the ground in copious amounts. Where was there even a trace of second wood chi left? Why is it like this? Xianxia was extremely disappointed. He'd taken great pains up until this moment, yet he'd achieved nothing. It was truly depressing. Woo-woo. Right at this moment, Bai Kuei's unusual whimpering drew Xianxia's attention. Xianxia lowered his head to look, and a verdant young sapling reflected within his eyes. Its leaves were verdant to the extreme, and second wood chi that was dense to the point it couldn't be dispersed flowed out from it. The second wood chi actually seemed material, and it formed an expanse of jade-green tiny clouds. Bai Kuei, on the other hand, emitted a greedy light from his eyes as he ferociously pounced towards this little sapling. Come back! Xianxia abruptly grabbed out purely instinctively, and at the instant the little fellow's mouth was only 3 centimeters away from the little sapling. Bai Kuei was barely pulled back by Xianxia before he reached the little sapling. Woo-woo! Bai Kuei glared bitterly at Xianxia, and his little appearance was exceedingly cute. I can't let you waste this thing. Go back and eat some magic treasures and play. Xianxia casually tossed out with his hand and sent Bai Kuei, who had a belly full of bitterness, back into his storage ring. As for how the little fellow would waste the magic treasures in the storage ring, he didn't mind entirely, as the little fellow's contribution was extremely great. So, eating some magic treasures was compensation Bai Kuei ought to receive, right? Not to mention these magic treasures had been picked and chosen by Xianxia since long ago, and they were all things at the top grade yellow rank or below that he had no use for. So, It didn't matter if Bai Kuei ate it, as all those magic treasures were prepared as food for Ling Bai and Bai Kuei. In the next moment, Xianxi's entire mind was drawn by this little sapling, and his intuition told him that this little sapling was surely a rare treasure that was incomparably rare. This little sapling was only the size of a palm, young and slender, with only 3 leaves on it. Every leaf was an extremely verdant emerald, with second-wood chi that was dense to the point it seemed to materialize drifting out from it. 3 jade-green clouds that were lively and cute even floated on the 3 leaves, and they surged with rich and pure vitality. Xianxia was already able to confirm that the bald large tree was only a shell that served as a layer of protection, and this little sapling was the source of the second-wood chi that was emitted out. This little sapling is so young, yet it's already able to effuse such dense second-wood chi. How extraordinary would it be if it matures? A treasure. This little sapling is absolutely an incomparably rare treasure. Xianxia took a deep breath and forcefully restrained the excitement in his heart, and his gaze descended onto the roots of the little sapling. This examination caused him to notice another thing that caused shock in him: chaotic life soil. Chaotic life soil was a rare treasure that wasn't of the 5 elements. According to legend, at the chaotic times during the absolute beginning of the world, numerous beings of the chaotic era were born from chaotic life soil. Once the heaven and earth were separated from each other and the 3 dimensions were established, chaotic life soil was buried within boundless time and had never appeared ever again. When he was at the southern barbaric nether domain's Sword Immortal's abode, Xianxia had once discovered a trace of the chaotic life soil's aura on a door in the treasure hall. Regretfully, that was only a strand of aura, and it was utterly impossible to gather it. There was a palm-sized patch of obscure black ash-colored soil at the roots of this little sapling before him, and it emitted a trace of an exceedingly ancient aura. Although it was weak, it caused shock to emerge in one's heart, and one's thoughts seemed to follow this trace of aura to return to ancient times, to the chaotic times at the absolute beginning of the world. According to legend, before the world was created, many fiend gods were born from chaotic life soil, and this little sapling is actually absorbing the energy of the chaotic life soil now. No wonder it's so miraculous. No matter how composed Xianxi's disposition was, he couldn't help but feel unrestrainable excitement surge through his entire body. A little sapling that poured out second-wood chi and a palm-sized patch of chaotic life soil, 2 treasures that were rare in the heavens and earth, was right before his eyes, within his reach. Who wouldn't be excited? I should seize the moment to unearth and take away the chaotic life soil along with the little sapling first. Xianxia took a deep breath as he suddenly became vigilant. This place was within the Buddha's trial pagoda, and there were countless gazes watching this place. If someone were to notice its aura and come over to take advantage of the situation, then it would be troublesome. Xianxia took out a jade box before squatting down, and then he stretched out his hand to carefully dig towards the chaotic life soil, as the little sapling's roots were thin and delicate like hair and would break extremely easily, so he had to be careful. However, a scene that Xianxia never imagined occurred. Right when his hand just touched the chaotic life soil, the shaman energy in his body seemed as if it was a group of sharks that had smelled blood, and it gushed out from his body to cover the chaotic life soil along with the little sapling before drawing them into his body, vanishing out of sight. Xianxia was shocked in his heart. Then he noticed that at the center of the mysterious and profound fifth earth shaman marking on his back, a wisp of an obscure black ash-colored shadow had silently appeared there, and it was indistinct and faintly visible. Shockingly, there was a palm-sized patch of soil floating within it, whereas, on the other side, along with the appearance of the black ash-colored shadow, the shadow of a little sapling had appeared on the second-wood shaman marking. The chaotic life soil and little sapling have actually entered into my shaman markings? Xianxia was both astonished and bewildered. He noticed that along with the appearance of the chaotic life soil and little sapling, there was a faint connection between his fifth earth shaman marking and second-wood shaman marking, and it was as if a bridge had linked up the 2 of them. An obscure and ancient aura gushed out from the chaotic life soil to pour into the second-wood shaman marking to be absorbed by the little sapling before transforming into extremely pure second-wood chi that poured into his body. In just an instant, Xianxia felt the blood, skin, tendons, internal organs, and even the meridians and apertures of varying sizes in his entire body emit a copious and powerful aura of vitality. They were full of vigor, and his vital energy and blood were exuberant to the limit. In his dazed state, Xianxia even had the misconception that his body was endlessly becoming stronger and sturdier, and there would be a day that he would be able to stand on the ground while holding up the sky with his hand, indomitable. Bang! In a flash, Xianxia felt the second-wood shaman energy in his entire body attain perfection, and another dense and profound shaman marking appeared once again on his back. This shaman marking structure wasn't dense and simple like the fifth earth shaman marking, nor was it light and gentle like the second-wood shaman marking. It instead emitted a sharp and cold feeling, like a hard saber or sword, strong and ghastly, and it was precisely the seventh gold shaman marking. The third level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement, the seventh gold realm. Xianxia was shocked to speechlessness. His cultivation in body refinement had actually risen explosively by a level in this short period of time. The Universe Stars Layer Body Forging Art's 9 levels of the Violet Palace realm was divided into the 5th Earth realm, 2nd Wood realm, 7th Gold realm, 3rd Fire realm, 9th Water realm. Xianxia had cultivated in closed doors at the first level of the Heaven Peak of Trials for 1.5 years before being able to cultivate the 2nd Wood Shaman marking and advance to the 2nd Wood realm, yet only about a month had passed since then. Xianxia had originally thought that he'd have to spend more than a year to be able to cultivate the 2nd Wood realm to perfection, yet he'd never imagined that just at this moment, in the space of a few breaths, he'd actually advanced. He obviously felt that within his shaman energy, besides the attribute of the baleful chi of the stars, 5th Earth, and 2nd Wood, another trace of a sharp and cold 7th Gold aura had appeared. Swish! The shaman energy in his body roiled and surged like a great river as they emitted roaring sounds like thunderclaps, and it was more than 2 times stronger than before. The pores all around his body effused out a trace of a desolate, mysterious, and vast aura, and it shook the surrounding air to the point it buzzed, before dispersing and keeping away. Moreover, strands of 2nd Wood chi gushed out from the little sapling in the 2nd Wood shaman marking incessantly, ceaselessly pouring into his body to continuously replenish his shaman energy and improve the vitality of the blood, flesh, tendons, skin, and internal organs in his entire body. Could be said that with this little sapling, when Xianxia battled another, he entirely didn't have to worry about the problem of his shaman energy drying up. But when the energy within the chaotic life soil was completely absorbed by the little sapling, this effect would be lost, and this effect that was almost heaven-defying would vanish along with it. Moreover, according to Xianxia's inference, if he were to exert his full strength to execute the Grand Astral Palm, the speed the little sapling replenished his shaman energy would be extremely far from able to follow up to the speed that he consumed his shaman energy. Of course, in a battle, so long as he was able to acquire a breather, he was completely capable of instantly recovering his shaman energy. However, Xianxia felt it was a pity that the little sapling was only able to replenish shaman energy, but not increase his cultivation. If he wanted to advance to an even higher cultivation level, then he must use Starsoul meteorites to cultivate by transforming its energy into 7th Gold shaman energy, and only then would he be able to cultivate the 7th Gold realm to perfection. If I'm able to possess a treasure similar to the little sapling that's able to continuously emit 7th Gold chi, 3rd Fire chi, and 9th Water chi, how good would that be? Xianxia sighed with emotion, and then his body stiffened as if he was struck by lightning, because he suddenly realized something. This place was the Azure Dragon area of the Four Symbols layer, and it possessed the little sapling that emitted 2nd Wood chi. Then would a treasure like this exist in the White Tiger area, Vermilion Bird area, and Black Tortoise area? Xianxia's heart started thumping without putting up a fight, and he said to himself, never mind. I'll let those 2,000 cultivators kill each other in this Four Symbols layer, and I'll just seize this opportunity to gather treasures. When he thought up to here, Xianxia didn't stay here any longer. He distinguished the direction before flashing out towards the enormous Golden Mountain at the White Tiger area. All along the way, battles were happening at every corner of this jade-green forest. All the 2,000 cultivators that were able to enter the second layer of the pagoda were either top figures in cultivators of the same realm, or perhaps some of them they relied on the help of their senior brothers of the same sect to arrive here. But once they arrived here, they had to rely on themselves. After all, only 100 people were able to enter the third layer of the pagoda, and these 100 people would be ranked at the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon rankings and were able to obtain a large number of medicinal pills, cultivation techniques, and magic treasures. Besides that, their reputation would also resound throughout the cultivation world of the entire Southern Territory, and they would obtain both fame and benefit. Under these circumstances, even if it was a senior brother of the same sect, they would undergo a battle amongst themselves for the sake of seizing a position in the top 100, and only people with the strongest strengths would be able to enter a higher layer of the pagoda. It seems lively over there. When he was just about to flash out of this jade-green forest, Xianxia seemed to have noticed something, and he instantly stopped moving as his enormous divine perception covered out towards his surroundings. At a place around 25 kilometers away, a man and a woman were battling in midair. The young woman had beautiful features as if from a painting, her skin jade supple, and she held a pair of azure and violet blades in her hands. As the dual blades danced about in her hands, sharp blade lights that seemed like a myriad of snowflakes swept through the heaven and earth, ferociously and swiftly, and it contained the resolve to kill. Shockingly, it was the leading figure in the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's younger generation, Fei Lengtsue. Her opponent was instead a handsome young man wearing a scholar's headdress, his brows dark black like ink, his eyes bright like a hawk. 3 swords hung at a slanted angle on his back, and his entire body was filled with a fierce and arrogant aura. It was exactly the Azure Sun sect's disciple, Qiulang, who was reputed as the incorporeal sword. At this moment, 2 of the 3 swords on Qiulang's back had left their sheaths, one black, the other white. The black sword was pitch black and profound, the white sword dazzling and resplendent, and they were like 2 soaring WRMs in his hands as he fought with Fei Lengtsue to a deadlock. Both of them were genius figures that had comprehended Dao insight, and before they participated in the Hidden Dragon rankings, their reputations had already resounded throughout the entire Dragon Lake City. Before they entered the Buddha's Trial Pagoda, they'd even been regarded as ferocious figures that were able to charge into the top 10 of the Hidden Dragon rankings. The instant they started to battle each other, airflow that was terrifying to the point it was sufficient to tear apart everything filled an area of 5 kilometers, and it was extremely horrifying. Such a world-shaking battle had naturally drawn the attention of most gazes. At this moment, there were already numerous cultivators watching the battle in their surroundings. Those with weak strength concealed themselves in hidden spots, whereas those with formidable strengths simply stood at positions with a good view. All of their gazes stared concentratedly at the battle between the two, and they either had expressions of shock, excitement, vague comprehension, bitterly pondering with a frown on their face, and so on and so forth. Xianxia stood there and silently gazed at the battle for a moment before turning around and leaving. The strengths of the two of them were more or less equal. Moreover, both of them were holding back and didn't bring out their full strengths. He didn't know how long a battle like this would need to continue on for, and comparatively speaking, searching for the treasures that he was interested in was much more important. Not long after Xianxia left, 3 figures swiftly appeared at a concealed location nearby the battlefield. It's all thanks to Zhong Mu's excellent plan of instigating the battle between Fei Lengtsue and Qiulang. After this battle, the two of them will probably be greatly weakened and have no hope of entering the top 10 any longer. A young man with a gaunt face and striking white hair grinned as he spoke. Brother Lu Ping, you flatter me. It's only some small tricks, and it's not worth mentioning. The silver-robed young man called Zhong Mu shook his head and smiled. Shouldn't we seize this opportunity and make a move? I didn't pass on the Shadow Devil movement technique to the both of you to chat and joke around with it. The last black-clothed young man with an ordinary appearance frowned as he spoke. The expressions of the white-haired young man called Lu Ping and the silver-robed young man called Zhong Mu became apprehensive in unison. They seemed as if they feared this black-clothed young man called Zhan Kong extremely, and they said with respectful expressions, "Brother Zhan Kong is right. That's good. Then we'll make a move right now." Zhan Kong nodded indifferently. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The tips of their feet tapped the ground and they instantly split up to flash towards the surroundings. Their auras were wispy like spirits that wandered about in the abyss of the underworld, and ordinary people were utterly unable to notice them. Gotcha! A spectating cultivator was caught off guard and had his neck snapped, causing him to lose his life on the spot, and even before his death, he never saw clearly exactly how his murderer looked like. Pooh! Another cultivator's heart was pierced through with a single stab of the sword, and he was just about to emit a shrill cry when a large hand tightly covered his mouth, and he silently passed away in the end. Scenes like this swiftly played out in the surroundings. Those cultivators that were spectating the battle between Fei Lengzue and Qiu Lung entirely didn't notice that behind them were three fellows that were like spirits who were silently reaping lives. Who were those three fellows? What ruthless methods! They seemed to not be disciples of the various powers of Dragon Lake City. Could it be that they're cultivators from outside the city? How ruthless! Every move takes a life. The cultivations of these three people are so high. Yet why have I never heard of their names? Yeah, the Buddha's trial pagoda has always been used for training, and it isn't a game of killing others. These three people are too ruthless. The surroundings of the Buddha's trial pagoda was in a complete uproar, and practically everyone was shocked by numerous bloody scenes that occurred continuously on the screens. When has an incident like this ever happened in the previous Hidden Dragon rankings? It was only a trial, and if one skill was inferior to another, one could just crush the transportation talisman. Yet these three people were despicable and ruthless, launching sneak attacks to kill with every strike, and they actually had no intention of allowing anyone to live. The battle between Fei Lingzue and Qiu Lung in the pagoda had drawn the attention of almost 500 cultivators to spectate. At this moment, under the sneak attacks of those three people, only 10 minutes had passed, yet over 60 people had died already. Moreover, this number was still rising, and if it were to continue on, then wouldn't all the spectating cultivators be killed in one fell swoop? When faced with this sort of unforeseen event, even the leaders of the various powers on the Jade platform couldn't maintain their calm. Fellow Taoists, have any of you recognized the origins of those three people? The Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's master, Ling Kongzi, spoke with a serious expression. I can't tell. I don't know. Strange. I've simply never seen or heard of the movement technique of these three people. I wonder from which sect they inherited it from? The other leaders had gloomy and serious expressions as they shook their heads without end. Most of the cultivators that were sneak attacked and killed by those three people were from their respective sections. Moreover, those that were able to enter the second layer of the pagoda possessed exceedingly extraordinary natural talent and aptitudes. Every death of a disciple like this was a disastrous loss to them. Since these three people aren't disciples from the various powers of our Dragon Lake City, then they're surely cultivators from other places outside the city, and cultivators from outside the city that wanted to participate in the Hidden Dragon rankings had to register themselves with the Darchu Soul Guard and collect their command token. Ling Kongzi turned around and said to a middle-aged man with a dignified expression, Qing Chuan, go check with the Darchu Soul Guard. You must find out the origins of these three people and report back to me. Understood. The middle-aged man called Qing Chuan knew that the state of affairs was pressing, and he accepted his orders and left right away. Fellow Taoist Ling, one can only leave this Buddha's trial pagoda, yet may not enter. If we allow these three people to go on like this, then wouldn't all of our disciples be wiped out? The Jade Flower Sect's master, Madame Xingyun, spoke with a face that was like ice. Alas, based on the current situation, we can only hope that the disciples in the pagoda will wake up, notice these three people and save their own lives. Ling Kongzi shook his head and sighed. The Buddha's trial pagoda was an immortal artifact of legend. Even though it was damaged, with their ability, they were only able to open its doors once every 10 years and instruct their disciples to enter into it to undergo training. Whereas now, it was utterly impossible to open up the door of the pagoda again. Looks quickly. There are three fellows carrying out assassinations towards the other cultivators over there as well. Ah, over there as well. It was at this moment that an exclamation of shock sounded out from the crowd. After that, everyone saw that within the entire Four Symbols layer of the pagoda, there were still another two groups of people that were silently carrying out a slaughter towards the disciples of the various great sects. These two groups of people were both made of three people each, and the movement technique they executed was exactly the same as the 3 people that were seen earlier. Obviously, these unfamiliar cultivators that totaled 9 people were together. At this moment, many of the disciples of the various powers within the pagoda had noticed that something was off, and they all stopped fighting before joining forces to battle those unfamiliar cultivators that had suddenly appeared like spirits. But what astonished everyone was that these 9 cultivators with strange movement techniques actually possessed extremely formidable strengths. Every single one of them was almost not inferior to Fei Lengzue, and they at least possessed a cultivation around the 8th level of the Violet Palace realm. Moreover, all the weapons in their possessions were top-grade yellow-rank magic treasures. Although these people were in groups of 3, their combat strength was so formidable that they still fought and utterly defeated the other disciples. In the end, the disciples could only helplessly crush their transportation talismans and flee from the pagoda. Who exactly are these 9 people? The hearts of everyone present was heavy to the extreme. The hidden dragon rankings that was originally a grand occasion of an unprecedented level seemed to have been smeared with a layer of shadows as well. She entirely didn't notice that an extremely bizarre change was occurring in the 4 symbols layer. At this moment, he was standing atop a golden mountain that was extremely tall, and his burning gaze stared fixedly at the metal that emitted dazzling gold light. He'd noticed a trace of 7th gold chi after arriving at the White Tiger area, and dashing along this aura, he saw an enormous rock that was completely round like a ball. This rock was similar to the 300m tall bald tree that he'd seen earlier. It was impermeable to fire and water, impossible to be scarred by weapons, and it was extremely hard. But she had a long since determined an appropriate method. He called out Bai Kuei, and Bai Kuei cleanly bit off the rock with a few crunches, revealing a piece of metal at its utmost core. This piece of metal emitted dense 7th gold chi, entirely gold in color with clear angular edges, and it was like a palm-sized piece of unrefined jade. The golden light emitted like it was like sabers and swords, and it actually cut Xi's skin to the point it faintly ached. After all, his current body had been tempered to the point it was extremely hard long ago, and it was comparable to a magic treasure. Yet he still felt as if his entire body was pricked by needles. Thus, exactly how sharp the gold light was could be seen from this. What dense 7th gold chi? As expected, this piece of metal is similar to the little sapling that effused 2nd wood chi. They're both rare treasures. She praised endlessly in his heart. Moreover, he noticed that there was surprisingly a layer of chaotic life soil beneath this piece of metal, and it seemed that this piece of metal was a treasure born from chaotic life soil as well. The Azure Dragon area and White Dragon area have both proved to contain this type of treasure, so the Vermilion Bird area and Black Tortoise area will surely have treasures of the same level. She stretched out his hand to grab towards the chaotic life soil as he pondered, and the familiar scene appeared once more. The chaotic life soil along with the piece of metal was drawn into his body by his shaman energy, and they gushed into the shaman markings on his back. There was originally a patch of chaotic life soil in his 5th Earth shaman marking, and when the two fused together, its volume instantly rose explosively by more than double, whereas on the 7th gold shaman marking, a piece of metal that emitted dazzling gold lights floated indeterminately. Moreover, a connection was linked up between the 7th gold shaman marking and the 5th Earth shaman marking. At this moment, 3 shaman markings appeared side by side on Xi's back. At the center was the 5th Earth shaman marking, and a patch of obscure black ash-colored chaotic life soil floated within it. On the left was the 2nd wood shaman marking, and within it was a green and luxuriant little sapling. On the right was the 7th gold shaman marking, and within it was a piece of metal that emitted dazzling golden lights. With the chaotic life soil as the axle, the 3 shaman markings were linked up and had a slight connection, and it was as if a bridge of the 5 elements had been linked together. The chaotic life soil effused out an ancient and vast aura that gushed into both the green and luxuriant little sapling and the piece of metal that emitted dazzling golden light, and then it was converted into pure 2nd wood chi and 7th gold chi that poured into Xi's body to be transformed into roiling and surging shaman energy. Bang! The instant the dense 7th gold chi transformed into shaman energy, it was like numerous tiny sharp blades that washed through the blood, flesh, skin, and tendons in Xianxi's body to repeatedly get rid of the impurities that were hidden deep within. In the span of a few breaths of time, Xianxi felt his entire body become light, his tendons and apertures snow-white like crystals, and his internal organs, flesh, and blood had been thoroughly cleansed. They seemed to emit a trace of misty gold light, and it was like they were covered with a layer of extremely tough golden skin, causing them to seem incomparably divine. Another few breaths of time later, Xianxi's entire body trembled as his body abruptly emitted the explosive sounds of a thunderstorm, whereas, beneath the fifth earth shaman marking on his back, another shaman marking had appeared once again. Its markings were fiery and conspicuous, unbridled and wild, and it was precisely the third fire shaman marking. At this moment, Xianxi had actually advanced once more to attain the fourth level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement, the third fire realm. I've advanced twice in one day and I haven't even cultivated much. This is too unbelievable. Xianxi felt as if he was hit by a pie that fell from the skies, and was struck dizzy. In his heart, he was instead worried that all of this was an illusion as he felt it was unreal. Xianxi took a deep breath and clenched his fist. He felt a strong feeling of strength that he'd never had before gush throughout his body, and he felt as if he could shatter a large mountain into powder with a single punch. Of course, this was a misconception. But Xianxi's current strength had risen explosively by a few times when compared with his strength from yesterday, and if he were to fight with those 100-plus Su clan disciples now, he was completely confident of annihilating all of them. The muddle-headed Xianxi didn't continue staying here any longer, and he hurried on, dashing towards the vermilion bird area without stopping. Without exception, he acquired a palm-sized and diamond-shaped fire crystal that emitted third fire chi and a patch of chaotic life soil. His strength rose violently by a level once again to arrive at the fifth level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement, the ninth water realm. Moreover, after experiencing the tempering and torture of the third fire shaman energy, Xianxi's body had become greatly stronger once again, and it was simply like a weapon that had been thoroughly tempered in a furnace, perfect without a flaw. After that was the black tortoise area. When he obtained the last pearl that emitted ninth water chi and a patch of chaotic life soil, Xianxi was instead not shocked anymore, or perhaps he was already numb. On his back at this moment, the fifth earth shaman marking lay at the center, the second wood shaman marking and seventh gold shaman marking on the left and right respectively, and the ninth water shaman marking and third fire shaman marking on the top and bottom respectively. All 5 shaman markings contained an extremely rare treasure and were connected together with the chaotic life soil as the core, and they acted in cooperation with each other from afar. Moreover, Xianxi noticed that the connection formed between the 5 shaman markings that went back and forth in order was like the relationship of mutual promotion and restriction between the 5 elements, benefiting each other and facilitating the growth in each other, and they went in cycle after cycle as if it was entirely formed by nature. The profound and mysterious connection between them was like a supreme law of the heaven and earth that had existed eternally, and it emitted a mysterious aura that caused reverence in others. On the other hand, the shaman energy in his body used the baleful chi of the stars as its source, and then it fused with the 5 elements of fifth earth, second wood, seventh gold, ninth water, and third fire, causing it to become even more desolate, vast, mysterious, and ancient. It was like the energy that fiend gods possessed innately before the primordial era, and its might was limitless. The school of fiend god body refinement was born from the fiend gods during the primordial era, and those formidable fiend gods innately possessed shaman energy that was terrifying to the extreme, allowing them to burn rivers and boil seas, command the universe, and look down upon the world. Presently, Xianxi undoubtedly possessed the potential similar to a primordial fiend god, and so long as he cultivated diligently without stopping on the path of cultivation, then he would one day be able to grow into an existence as terrifying as the primordial fiend gods. This little fellow, Bai Kuei, contributed greatly in allowing me to be able to successively break through 3 times in one day this time. No wonder Senior Ji you said that a Pishio is a top auspicious beast in the world and is able to accumulate karmic luck. In this way, all the good fortune I experienced today is surely related to Bai Kuei. Only at this moment did Xianxi deeply understand the value of Bai Kuei's existence. In the past, he'd only taken the little fellow to be a glutton that consumed his magic treasures. But now, he didn't dare think like that anymore. Moreover, if Bai Kuei didn't bite of the indestructible tree roots, rocks, then she could only enter a mountain of treasures yet come back empty-handed today, and it would be utterly impossible for him to possess so many fortuitous encounters. I wonder how's the battles in the Four Symbols layer at this moment. Will Chen Hao, Du Qingxi, and the others be able to persist until they enter the third layer of the pagoda? She pondered for a moment and was unable to be at ease in the end. He stood up right away before flashing out towards the jade-green forest of the Azure Dragon area. Up until now, amongst the 2,000 Violet Palace realm cultivators of the younger generation that had entered the Four Symbols layer of the Buddha's Trial Pagoda, there were already over 200 people that had died tragically. 1,500 plus people had crushed their transportation talismans and were transported out of the pagoda, and only less than 300 people still persisted in the battle. Amongst these 200 plus people that had died tragically, a huge portion of them were killed by the sneak attacks of the 9 unfamiliar cultivators of mysterious origin, and it was horrifying. Most of these cultivators that had died tragically came from the various powers. They were young, possessed great potential, and had superb natural talent. Great hope was placed on every one of them by the powers they were from. Yet at this moment, all of them lay on the ground and had met a tragic fate. Death. To the various powers, their losses could be said to be extremely heavy, and in the past hidden dragon rankings, it was utterly impossible for such an incident to occur. The culprits that had caused all this was those 9 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators. Fortunately, the Four Symbols layer wasn't large, and in next to no time, the remaining disciples noticed that something was strange. They joined forces right away and launched an assault towards the 9 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators under the lead of Fei Lengsui and Xiu Lung. When they saw this scene, the tense nerves of everyone standing outside the pagoda had finally eased up greatly. As long as the disciples were able to kill these 9 people, then perhaps the competition would still be able to be smoothly carried on. However, unexpected to everyone, when the remaining disciples were about to surround and entrap those 9 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators, another 50-plus people from the remaining 300 disciples had suddenly defected and struck killing blows towards the disciples of the various sects that were by their side. In just an instant, another 40-plus people lost their lives on the spot. These 50-plus cultivators that had suddenly defected were actually of the same group with those 9 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators. Not only did this sudden change shock everyone outside the pagoda, even the disciples of the various powers within the pagoda were caught off guard, and a tremendous change instantly appeared in the situation as well. Only over 200 of the disciples of the various powers led by Fei Lengsui and Qiu Lang remained now, whereas their opponents had instead changed from 9 to 65. Moreover, these mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators seemed to have been always hiding their strength, and only at this moment of defection did they reveal their true strengths. Every single one of them was formidable to the extreme, and although they couldn't compare to Fei Lengsui and Xiu Lung, they firmly surpassed the strengths of the other disciples. So, even if there were only 65 of them, they instead faintly possessed a position of superiority. The battle exploded out in next to no time. Under the joint forces of those 65 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators, one by one, the disciples of the various powers of Dragon Lake City crushed the transportation talismans in their hands, leaving with hatred in their hearts. There were even some disciples that weren't able to escape in time and were directly killed on the spot. The horror of the battle and the bloodiness of the scenes caused the expressions of all the people outside the pagoda to be unsightly to the extreme, and it was as if an enormous rock was pressing on their hearts, causing them to be unable to catch their hearts. Moreover, everyone noticed that even if those mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators battled to the death, they would absolutely not crush the transportation talisman, and they were like loyalists that were indifferent to life and death, ruthless to the enemy and even more ruthless to themselves. It was precisely because of these fellows' ruthlessness and mercilessness, and their indifferent regard towards death. After a short moment, only Fei Lengsui, Qiu Lang, and another 10-plus people remained on the battlefield, whereas there were still another 32 enemies glaring at them like tigers glaring at their prey. They're done for. This was the only thought in the hearts of everyone outside the pagoda, and the facts didn't exceed their expectations. Let's go. There's no meaning in continuing. These people are utterly not here to participate in the hidden dragon competition. Fei Lengzue strenuously defended the attacks that came from all around like tidewater as she spoke Chun Hao, who was beside her. It's indeed so. All these fellows are ruthless and merciless, and they're entirely unlike members of our southern territory. The nearby Qiu Lang said as well, let's go. We can still live if we go out, yet once these fellows go out, they will probably be captured by the seniors of the various powers outside before being tortured to the point of being skinned alive and having their tendons pulled out, and they will die a graveless death. All right, let's go. Chun Hao forced an enemy back with a single strike of the sword before crushing the transportation talisman in his hand. Bang! 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 At the same time, Fei Lingzue and the others crushed their transportation talismans successively, and they vanished on the spot. In an instant, it actually seemed as if only those 32 unfamiliar and mysterious cultivators remained in the entire Four Symbols layer. The opportunity has finally come. This Buddha's pagoda is an immortal artifact passed down from the Buddhist sect. Although it's damaged and the artifact spirit has been obliterated without a trace, so long as it enters into my hands, then I'll surely be able to restore it back to good condition in 100 years. Outside the pagoda, a black-robed woman spoke slowly with an extremely low and icy cold voice from the shadows in the distance. Her entire body was covered in the black robe, her appearance unable to be discerned, and she seemed extremely mysterious. Beside the black-robed woman was a middle-aged man that was similarly covered under black robes, and he said respectfully, "Congratulations, Hall Master Fan. So long as 10 people from the remaining Devil Spirit Guard are able to enter the highest layer of the pagoda, they'll be able to control the core of this immortal artifact. At that time, this supreme immortal artifact will be yours. And only someone with a status like yours is worthy of such a treasure. Don't count the chicks before they hatch. There are many experts outside this Buddhist pagoda. Feng Ming, get ready. Once the 32 Devil Spirit Guards succeed, you and I will go to their aid together, and we'll leave as soon as we get the Buddha's pagoda from them." The black-robed woman that was called Hall Master Fan spoke slowly. "Okay, but Hall Master Fan, those 32 Devil Spirit Guards?" The black-robed man called Feng Ming asked hesitantly. "It doesn't matter if they die. I'll do the explaining when the Lord asks about it." "That would be great." The black-robed woman seemed to have noticed something. She suddenly shot her gaze towards the surface of the pagoda. A pair of gazes that was cold to the bone shot out, and a portion of a chin that was white and delicate like fine jade stuck out from beneath her loose and comfortable black-colored hat. Damn it! The losses of the various powers in the Hidden Dragon rankings this time can be said to be heavy to the extreme. It's all because of these damnable fellows. A nice Hidden Dragon rankings competition has actually been turned into a battlefield of great slaughter. Once these fellows come out, they must surely be torn into thousands of pieces before burning their bones and scattering their ashes. Outside the pagoda, the hearts of everyone present felt extremely heavy, and they were exceedingly enraged as they looked at the 32 unfamiliar and mysterious cultivators in the Four Symbols area. That's Chan Shi. It's actually Chan Shi. He actually hasn't left yet. He's flying towards those 32 villains. Could it be that he wants to annihilate them by himself? Can you not joke around at a time like this? The Su clan disciples can't compare to those people. Every single one of them is ruthless, merciless, and fearless towards death. And the strength of every single of them is even able to compare to the Wandering Cloud sword sex Fei Lingzue. No matter how formidable Chun Shi is, he can only flee as well when encountering these 32 people. The people present noticed to their shock that within the Four Symbols layer, Chun Shi was approaching towards those 32 mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators, and they couldn't help but emit numerous exclaims of shock. This kid is still striving to flaunt his superiority at a time like this. He's truly courting death. But it's best if this kid escapes. On the Jade platform, the Su clan's patriarch, Su Jintian, looked at Chan Shi, who was within the pagoda. When he recalled the 6 Golden Hall Realm cultivators and 1 Golden Core Realm cultivator that had died tragically at Chan Shi's hands, And when he recalled the 96 elite Su clan disciples of the younger generation that had died miserably at Xianxia's hands, billowing hatred gushed out from within his heart. And he wished for nothing more than to capture Xianxia now before using all types of brutal techniques of torture on Xianxia. When Xianxia arrived at the Jade Green Forest, he saw the innumerable corpses that lay on the ground with blood that flowed out to form rivers, and the condition of their deaths was extremely tragic. His heart suddenly tightened. Then his divine perception spread out to carefully sweep past all the corpses, and he secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he confirmed that Qian Hao and Du Qingxi's group weren't amongst the corpses. But a bloody and brutal scene like this still caused his expression to become extremely serious, because he faintly felt that it seemed like an unexpected change that he was unaware of had occurred in the Four Symbols layer. There's still a person over there. Right at this moment, a voice sounded out abruptly from extremely far in the forest, and accompanying this voice, a few tens of figures were like a roiling dark cloud that drifted over and had appeared before Qianxia in the blink of an eye. Shockingly, it was those 32 unfamiliar and mysterious cultivators who were also the Devil Spirit Guard that the mysterious Hall Master fan spoke of. But Qianxia didn't know all of his, yet he acutely noticed that the killing intent on these people was dense to the extreme, and their clothing was tainted with fresh blood. Obviously, they'd just experienced a fierce battle. She pointed at the corpses on the floor and asked, "These people were killed by all of you?" "Exactly. Presently, all the disciples of the various powers of your Dragon Lake City have either lost their lives or fled, and only you remain. I advise you to get the fuck out of here on your own, so as to avoid losing your worthless life." A man with striking white hair walked out slowly, and it was precisely the cultivator called Lu Ping. "Get the fuck out? Worthless life?" Qianxi's eyes narrowed as he spoke with an expressionless face. "Oh, in that case, all of you aren't cultivators from Dragon Lake City? If I'm not wrong, perhaps all of you aren't even cultivators from the Southern Territory." "Humph. Do you think I'll tell you?" Lu Ping grunted in disdain, and then he swung his hand as he said, "Quickly fuck off. Fuck off. You little bastard. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Don't force me to make a move, otherwise, this worthless life of yours won't be able to live until tomorrow." No matter how good Qianxi's temper was, he couldn't help but burst into rage from being insulted repeatedly, and killing intent instantly emerged in his heart. Yet he said calmly, "All of you have killed so many people, and you'll probably have to die after you go out. Since it's like this, can you tell me what all of you are attempting to obtain? Could it be that it's this pagoda?" As far as Qianxia was concerned, the actions of these fellows were too unusual, and it seemed as if they weren't afraid of their own safety, nor were they killing for the sake of the rankings and prizes of the Hidden Dragon rankings. Then they surely were after something. Moreover, they were after something great. Otherwise, they would absolutely not kill so brazenly right under the noses of the leaders of the various powers. "How did you?" Lu Ping spoke with astonishment, and then he suddenly reacted and promptly shut his mouth. Unfortunately, it was already too late. At this moment, Qianxia was already able to confirm that these fellows had come for the sake of this pagoda. After all, this pagoda was once an immortal artifact many years ago. Although it was already damaged, to someone that was able to repair it, it was undoubtedly a peerless treasure that someone would greatly desire even in their dreams. Looks like these fellows ought to have the method to repair the pagoda in their possession. If it's able to come into my possession, then wouldn't it be equivalent to acquiring an immortal artifact for free? Qianxi's heart palpitated with excitement. Legends said that immortal artifacts contained a world of their own, and an artifact spirit that possessed boundless energy resided within it. It was able to battle on its own with wisdom similar to humans, and it was intelligent to the extreme. The might of an immortal artifact was so formidable that it was even able to tear open space and shatter a small world into pieces. It possessed terrifying might that dashed to the heavens and covered the earth, and only an heavenly immortal realm expert was able to completely exert its might. And the Buddha's trial pagoda was an immortal artifact. Even though this pagoda had already been damaged long ago and its artifact spirit obliterated, but after so many years, there was still no one that was able to subdue and repair it. That's why it was taken by the various powers of Dragon Lake City as the training grounds for the hidden dragon rankings. Presently, a group of mysterious and unfamiliar cultivators had actually disregarded their lives and set their sights on the Buddha's trial pagoda. Didn't that show that they already possessed the method to subdue and repair the pagoda in their hands? If the old goats of the various powers of Dragon Lake City were to find out about this, they'd surely fight to the death for it, whereas Xianxia was obviously unable to resist the temptation of an immortal artifact as well. Lu Ping, you've given away too much. Right at this moment, another black-clothed young man with an ordinary appearance walked out from amongst the 32 devil spirit guards, and it was precisely the mysterious cultivation called Zhang Kong. He seemed to be the leader of this group of devil spirit guards, and the instant he stood out, all the other devil spirit guards behind him revealed respectful expressions. When you go back this time, go to the judgment hall to receive punishment yourself. Zhang Kong spoke indifferently. Captain Zhang Kong, Lu Ping's face went pale, and he opened his mouth wanting to explain. But when he encountered Zhang Kong's icy cold and expressionless gaze, he was instantly unable to say another word. Judgment Hall? Looks like these fellows are all from the same organization. Xianxia seemed to have thought of something, yet his gaze descended to the young man called Zhang Kong. He faintly felt a strange and formidable aura concealed within this person, and Zhang Kong's strength was obviously extremely formidable. Xianxia, you can't go out this time. Only after killing you will I be able to be certain that no secret will be leaked out. Zhang Kong held his hands behind his back as he spoke indifferently, and a sense of superiority and power over the world gushed out from his body. You know me? Xianxia spoke in surprise. You annihilated 96 Sioux clan cultivators and helped me greatly. How could I not know you? Zhang Kong spoke with an expressionless face. I can't deny that your strength has indeed exceeded my expectations, and it's even to the extent that I don't dare guarantee being able to take you down by myself. Unfortunately for you, I won't fight one-on-one with you. You'll surely die under the joint attacks of the 32 of us. Aren't you worried that I'd crush the transportation talisman and flee now? Xianxia probed. I've already discerned that you still haven't given up, even until now, and you want to meddle in something that you shouldn't. If you don't give it a try, you wouldn't be willing to leave now at all. Zhang Kong replied indifferently. You're right. I will indeed not leave until I kill all of you. Xianxia nodded, and then he said with a smile, all of you have something in your possessions that interests me after all. You're courting death. Humph. Shameless boasting. Captain Zhang Kong, should we make a move now and kill this kid that has an exaggerated opinion of his ability? Zhang Kong waved his hand and restrained them from continuing to speak, and only then did he speak indifferently. Xianxia, do you dare to have a final battle after we enter the Yinyang layer? If you win, I'll hand over the thing you're interested in. How about it? That couldn't be any better. Xianxia agreed without the slightest hesitation. Captain Zhang Kong, why aren't we making a move now, and are instead waiting until we enter the Yinyang layer? The nearby Lu Ping asked. Because all of you have experienced a fierce battle earlier. Your captain needs to use this period of time to allow all of you to recover your strengths. Xianxia said with a smile. Whereas I need this period of time as well to find out of some things from all of you. It's just as simple as that. You're extremely intelligent, but intelligent people die early. Zhang Kong glanced at Xianxia as he spoke coldly. Xianxia smiled and said no more. Numerous black hole vortexes had suddenly appeared in the surrounding sky before gushing out with an extremely great suction force that instantly drew everyone present into it and vanished. The third layer of the Buddha's trial pagoda was the Yinyang layer. The people that were able to enter into it were ranked in the top 100 of the hidden dragon rankings, and they'd already possessed the qualifications to obtain a huge amount of magic treasures, medicinal pills, and cultivation techniques. Regretfully, because of the appearance of Zhang Kong's group, only a total of 33 people including Xianxia had entered into the Yinyang layer this time. Moreover, these two parties were about to undergo a battle of life and death, and there wasn't anything like rankings left to be competed for. So, the hidden dragon rankings this time could be said to only exist in name. What's going on? Xianxia and those villains actually didn't fight, and they've all entered the Inyang layer of the pagoda. He was chatting freely with those villains. Could it be that Xianxia's one of them? It's extremely likely. Bastard. I thought Xianxia hated evil like poison and intended to help us vent our resentment. But who knew that he was actually a person like this? Perhaps he was always one of them. When they saw Xianxia getting along peacefully with those 32 devil spirit guards and had entered the Inyang layer together, the entire scene went into an uproar, and all of them almost didn't dare believe their eyes. Humph! I knew since long ago that this animal, Xianxia, harbored ill intent and was plotting something. Everyone, I suggest that all of us make a move against him once he comes out. Skin him alive and torture him before tearing him into thousands of pieces. On the Jade platform, Su Jintian was delighted in his heart when he saw this scene, and he emitted a sudden loud shout right away. His voice was so loud that it was like billowing thunder, and the entire surroundings of the Buddha's trial pagoda could clearly hear it. Right? Kill him. He cheated us. He's really detestable. It's not worth pitying the death of someone who assists evildoers. Kill him. Kill him. Su Jintian's voice had only just sounded out when it instantly aroused the indignation in the hearts of everyone present, and all of them shouted out loudly in unison. Those people that were originally undecided echoed out with the view of the others, and in an instant, Xianxia had actually become a heinous criminal. Brother Su, aren't you speaking too early? On the Jade platform, the sect master of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect, Ling Kongzi, couldn't help but speak out with a frown when he saw everyone in the surroundings that was extremely infuriated. Fellow Taoist Ling. Presently, all the fellow Taoists present have seen Xianxia colluding with villains to commit all sorts of evil with their own two eyes. It's already proven by evidence, and I've instead noticed it too late. If I was able to expose this kid's repulsive side earlier, then the disciples of the various powers of our Dragon Lake City wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. Su Jintian smiled coldly and indifferently. Looks like Brother Su has a bad opinion about Xianxia. Ling Kongzi spoke with a frown. Bad opinion? Su Jintian said seriously. Not only do I have a bad opinion of him, I even wish for nothing more than to tear this little bastard into pieces. Not only has he slaughtered my Su clan disciples, he's even associating himself with those villains at this moment to bring disaster to the disciples of the various powers of my Dragon Lake City. Who amongst the people present is able to agree to not eliminating this kid? Right? We can't agree. We must not let him off. Well said, Patriarch Su. Su Jintian's words won the support and seconding of everyone present. Because of the appearance of these devil spirit guards, an unprecedentedly grand hidden dragon rankings has instead become a bloody slaughter, and many of the disciples that had died tragically were the friends and family of many people that were present. In other words, these devil spirit guards were their common enemy, and when they saw Xianxia had actually colluded with these villains, how could they not be enraged in their hearts? Why is it like this? Xianxia isn't a person like this. These stupid fellows have all been deluded by that ignorant old man, Su Jintian. In the crowd, Du Qingxi, Duanmu Zhe, and Song Lin revealed enraged expressions. They understood Xianxia extremely well, and they knew that Xianxia didn't know these fellows at all. How could he possibly be with them? Besides the three of them, Xianhao pursed his lips and didn't say a word, yet his gaze was extremely firm. He believed his own older brother, believed without the slightest reservations, and his belief had never wavered a bit. Even if Xianxia was really a heinous criminal and became an enemy in the eyes of a myriad of people, he would still stand on Xianxia's side without the slightest hesitation. It was at this moment that a sharp cry resounded out abruptly. H! Everyone look quickly. Xianxia and those people have engaged each other in battle. Engaged each other in battle? The mass of people that were roaring in rage was stunned in unison, and then they raised their heads to look towards the surface of the pagoda. Sure enough, they saw that within the Inyang layer, Xianxia was battling alone against the 32 devil spirit guards. They saw Xianxia being encircled at the center by the 32 devil spirit guards as various magic treasures, techniques, and talismans blasted towards him as if they were worthless. The situation of the battle was extremely intense, and it was utterly impossible to fake. This is real. Everyone was dumbstruck. The rage and hatred in their hearts instantly disappeared without a trace as they stood there standing blankly, and their expressions were ones of extreme embarrassment. Everyone, don't be deceived. Only 10 people are able to enter the highest layer of the pagoda, the oneness layer, yet including Xianxia, there are a total of 33 people amongst them, so they have to eliminate 23 people. Xianxia was helping villains do evil yet was abandoned by these villains. It serves him right. Su Jintian was doubtful and surprised as well, but Su Jintian couldn't tolerate Xianxia washing off his infamy. So he hurriedly shouted out loudly right away. You ignorant old goat, I want to ask you. These people are fully aware that leaving the pagoda meant death, and they were entirely unable to obtain any rewards from the hidden dragon rankings. So why would they want to enter the highest layer of the pagoda? If my brother is in their group, then why do they have to kill each other? Could it be that he can't choose to withdraw himself? When he saw Su Jintian still slandering Xianxia at a time like this, Xianhao couldn't endure any longer, and he flew up to stand in midair before pointing at Su Jintian and asking in a loud voice, Audacious kid, you actually dare insult me as an ignorant old goat? You're courting death. Su Jintian shouted out explosively before raising his hand to grab towards Xianhao. What? Did this disciple of my wandering cloud sword sect say anything wrong? Ling Kongzi took a step forward as he swung his sleeve, and a strand of vast true essence swept out with a bang to directly strike Su Jintian to the point he took 3 steps back. All right, out of respect for you, Ling Kongzi, I won't fuss about it with him. But when Xianxia is unable to resist the overwhelming numbers and escapes from the pagoda in a sorry state, I'll kill him. If anyone dares obstruct me, then it's going against my entire Su clan, and even if... Su Jintian's expression was extremely gloomy as he spoke, yet he'd only spoken halfway when he stopped abruptly, and his gaze looked towards the surface of the pagoda as his face revealed a wisp of disbelief. When they saw this scene, the attention of everyone present shot towards the surface of the pagoda once more, and then everyone gaped with expressions of extreme shock. In the yin-yang layer of the Buddha's trial pagoda, the instant Xianxia appeared once again, he saw the 32 devil spirit guards surrounding him from afar. They didn't make a single sound before brazenly attacking. Practically all 32 of these people had cultivations at the 8th level of the Violet Palace realm and a cultivation in the martial Dao at the Dao Insight stage. Zhang Kong had even attained the perfection stage of the Violet Palace realm and was only a step away from stepping into the Golden Hall realm. The joint forces of these 32 people were sufficient to annihilate any Golden Core realm cultivator. Swish! 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 Numerous dazzling and resplendent rays of magic treasures shot into the sky, and every single one of them was a top-grade yellow-rank magic treasure. Under the control of these 32 people, the magic treasures were like a squall that poured down from every direction, causing the sky to tremble and emit whistling sounds as they struck down like an erupting volcano with an extremely shocking impetus. They didn't speak, nor hesitate, striking with their full force right off the bat. They wouldn't stop until they killed Xianxia. Obviously, these 32 devil spirit guards had already decided to completely annihilate Xianxia in this strike. Under these circumstances, Xianxia didn't dare hesitate to circulate the shaman energy within his entire body before fiercely grabbing at the air with his right hand. It seemed as if even the heaven and earth was trembling as an enormous palm that covered an area of 300 m appeared out of thin air, like a single hand that could hide the heavens, and the entire hand was coiled with strong 5-colored airflows of bright yellow color, jade green color, sharp gold color, crimson red color, and dark black color. The 5-colored airflows whistled and roiled as they emitted a divine radiance, and on the striations of the palm, innumerable dazzling stars revolved without end as they flickered between a bright and dim state. When the entire enormous hand appeared, a strand of heavy, abundant, sharp, violent, and vast aura that was terrifying occupied the center of the palm before spreading out towards the surroundings with a bang, causing the sky to be shaken to the point violent ripples undulated out. The rocks on the ground were even pressed by this aura, to the point they cracked inch by inch before exploding and collapsing. When looked at from afar, This enormous palm that was filled with the energy of the five elements and the baleful chi of the stars was simply like the hand of an indomitable fiend god from ancient times, with a monstrous, imposing aura. At the instant the enormous hand appeared in midair, it grabbed out fiercely, and all the numerous magic treasures that covered the heavens and the earth were grabbed into the palm. The 5 fingers of the palm clenched, and a wave of explosions rumbled and resounded in the entire heavens and earth. The numerous top-grade yellow-rank magic treasures collapsed and shattered without the slightest ability to resist, and in the blink of an eye, they transformed into a pile of powder and bits that drifted down slowly before vanishing without a trace. Presently, Xianxia had already attained the 5th level of the Violet Palace realm in body refinement, and after his grand astral palm fused with the shaman energies of 5th earth, 2nd wood, 7th gold, 3rd fire, and 9th water, it was as if it had been reborn. Its might had skyrocketed by more than 10 times, and it had attained the 5th level of the Grand Astral Palm. Moreover, when he was at the 2nd level of the Violet Palace realm, the Grand Astral Palm execute by Xianxia was able to annihilate 4 Golden Hall realm cultivators. Now that his cultivation has consecutively risen explosively by 3 levels, the might of the Grand Astral Palm was already sufficient to crush profound rank magic treasures. So no matter how formidable these top-grade yellow-rank magic treasures were, they were still fragile like paper before the Grand Astral Palm, and they were shattered as soon as the palm clenched. Crush, crush, crush. The 32 Devil Spirit Guards, with Zhang Kong in the lead, suffered a heavy injury when their magic treasures were obliterated. They couldn't refrain from spitting out a mouthful of blood. Their countenances had already swiftly become pale to the extreme. How is this possible? Only half a day has passed since we saw this fellow execute this large hand to annihilate the Su clan disciples. How did this fellow's strength rise explosively by so much again? What divine ability is this? It's actually able to crush top-grade yellow-rank magic treasures. Damn it! This fellow's strength has skyrocketed by too much. Could it be that he has always been concealing his strength? When they were at the 8 Directions realm of the pagoda, practically all of these Devil Spirit Guards had spectated the battle between Xianxia and the Su clan disciples. They could be said to clearly understand Xianxi's strength, and it was because of this that they were so confident in annihilating Xianxia in this move. However, at this moment, the strength that Xianxia erupted with was instead stronger by an entire 10 times more than the strength they'd seen before. Not only had it caused their full force strike to hit nothing, it even caused a certain level of injury to themselves. How could they not be shocked? Die! Right when Zhang Kong and the others were secretly terrified, Xianxia shouted out explosively as the Grand Astral Palm crashed down once more. Bang! 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 Surging shaman energy of the 5 elements was mixed with piercingly cold baleful chi of the stars that fluctuated violently, and it covered the enormous palm like a towering enormous mountain that could crush anything as it fiercely smashed down. Instantly, there were over 10 Devil Spirit Guards that were unable to dodge in time, causing them to be smashed into the ground before transforming into a pile of mush. They were dead without a doubt. Shit! I'm afraid we're unable to complete the assignment of Hallmaster from this time. Zhang Kong dodged away in a sorry state, and his expression was already extremely heavy. Captain Zhang Kong, what should we do? The enemy is too formidable, and we aren't a match for him. In the distance, Lu Ping cried out loudly, his voice revealing traces of terror. No matter who saw their companions turning into a pile of meat that was like mash in the blink of an eye, they would probably be terrified to the extreme as well. What should we do? We'll still die if we escape from the pagoda, and even if we're able to survive, Hall Master Fan would surely not let us off. Instead of this, why don't we take this kid down with us? Everyone, move out. Execute the Blood Infant Immortal slaughtering formation. A trace of ruthlessness flashed past Zhang Kong's eyes as he waved out his hand and waves of terrifying true essence spread out. After that, an enormous pitch-black formation diagram flew out from his body. Black smoke roiled on the surface of the sword formation as a sanguinary aura shot into the sky. Numerous infants with warped appearances wailed and emitted sharp cries, seeming like humans, yet weren't humans, seeming like ghosts, yet weren't ghosts. They were very savage and terrifying to the extreme. Yes, A trace of resolution flashed on the faces of the mere 13 devil spirit guards that remained, and their bodies transformed into flowing lights that flew into the enormous formation diagram. Instantly, the dense and savage infants within the formation diagram completely swallowed the bodies and souls of these 13 people. And then the formation diagram emitted a blazing dark light as dense black mist roiled like a river on it, roaring as if it intended to gush out from the formation diagram. Damn it! It's actually the blood infant immortal slaughtering formation. How many souls of infants, how much blood essence of young boys, and how much baleful blood would be needed to refine this formation? Chun-Shi, you must watch out. This grand formation's only use is to detonate itself. Its might is comparable to a golden core realm cultivator detonating his golden core, causing even rebirth realm cultivators to be unable to avoid it, and not dare take the brunt of the force. Ling Bai seemed to be extremely shocked and infuriated, and he roared as he sent a voice transmission. Even rebirth realm cultivators aren't able to withstand it? Chun-Shi was shocked in his heart. He didn't dare hesitate to execute the grand astral palm with his entire strength to fiercely slap down towards Zhang Kong, and at the same time, he withdrew the 64 flying swords to form a shield of swords to guard all around him. Die! Zhang Kong laughed savagely as he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Then his arms shook, and the entire formation diagram left him and flew out. The instant it appeared in midair, it transformed into 13 enormous blood-colored infants with twin horns on their heads, and their faces were warped and wicked. Rumble! When these 13 blood-colored infants appeared, they detonated themselves and exploded. Instantly, the heaven and earth seemed to be obliterated at this instant, and a terrifying airflow that was like a tsunami swept through the heaven and earth with a loud crash. In an area of 500 kilometers in the surroundings, the terrain, plants, and the spirit energy in the air all showed a state of chaos and crumbling. Crack! In almost an instant, the grand astral palm that slapped down shattered with a loud bang before dispersing. Whereas, Chun-Shi had noticed things were going badly since long ago, and he flew towards the distance. Yet he never expected that the extremely terrifying force assaulted towards him in the blink of an eye, and the 64 high-grade yellow-rank flying sword around him emitted a mournful cry in unison before becoming completely damaged and transformed into bits and pieces that sprayed all over the sky. Chun-Shi felt as if his entire body was fiercely hammered by a myriad of enormous hammers. His head droned as the bones and tendons in his entire body emitted tiny cracking and breaking sounds, and he abruptly spat out a mouthful of blood as his countenance became exceedingly pale. The more cultivators it swallowed, the stronger the might of the blood infant immortal slaughtering formation was. The complete blood infant immortal slaughtering formation required swallowing 64 golden core realm cultivators, and the might of its detonation was entirely capable of obliterating an earthly immortal realm expert. Fortunately, the blood infant immortal slaughtering formation Zhang Kong had only swallowed the bodies and souls of 13 violet palace realm cultivators. And although the might of its detonation was formidable, after being obstructed by the grand astral palm and the 64 high-grade yellow-rank flying swords, its might had already been weakened greatly. Moreover, Chun-Shi's body refinement cultivation had already attained the 5th level of the Violet Palace realm. His body was even more formidable than a yellow-rank magic treasure, and it was because of this that when the strength of the explosion blasted onto him, he was able to fortunately escape this calamity. You actually didn't die. In the distance, Zhang Kong cried out loudly in terror. You monster! That was a might that was able to annihilate any Golden Core Realm cultivator and cause any Rebirth Realm cultivator to suffer a heavy injury. How could you be able to withstand it? Chun-Shi paid no attention to Zhang Kong. As soon as the shaman energy within Chun-Shi's entire body circulated, his broken and cracked bones and tendons instantly recovered completely, and at the same time, a strand of secondwood essence with boundless vitality gushed out from the miraculous little sapling in the secondwood shaman marking on his back. The strand of secondwood essence gushed into his body, instantly allowing his injuries to recover by more than half, and the shaman energy in his entire body recovered by almost 80%. Instantly, Chun-Shi became full of spirit and vigor once again, and he was brimming with health and vitality. After all, in there was respectively the chaotic life soil, the nameless divine wood, the nameless metal, the nameless fire crystal, and the nameless water pearl, 5 types of extremely miraculous treasures within the 5 shaman markings on his back. When all of them circulated with each other, roiling 2nd wood chi, 7th gold chi, 3rd fire chi, and 9th water chi transformed into shaman energy of the various attributes before continuously replenishing the consumed shaman energy in his body. It could be said that so long as Xianxia was given a chance to catch his breath during a battle, his shaman energy was completely inexhaustible. When Zhang Kong saw Xianxia, she seemed to have already recovered to his peak state in the blink of an eye. Zhang Kong was greatly shocked once more, and he felt his scalp go numb. No matter how he racked his brains, he was unable to wrap his head around what actually was going on. Could it be that this fellow is a freak that can't be killed? Die! Xianxia walked over with large strides before stretching out his hand to grab, and a grand astral palm appeared out of thin air to grab Zhang Kong into the palm as if it was grabbing a chick, and it was actually extraordinarily easy. It was normal when one thought about it. Earlier, when he activated the Blood Infant Immortal slaughtering formation, Zhang Kong had already poured all his true essence into it, and he'd even consumed his blood essence without hesitation to strengthen the might of the formation. He'd already become extremely feeble, so how could he have the strength to struggle and resist? Wait, you can't kill me. Could it be that you don't want to know how to obtain this pagoda? Zhang Kong cried out loudly in fear. I'll naturally know after I kill you, said Xianxia indifferently. Crack. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Kong's entire body was directly crushed into strands of dense and thick blood by the grand astral palm, and it trickled down to drip to the ground. Up until this moment, not a single one of the 32 Devil Spirit Guards had escaped, and they were all killed by Xianxia. Swish! Xianxia flicked his sleeve, and besides the storage pouches of the 13 Devil Spirit Guards that detonated themselves that had gone missing, the 19 storage pouches on the ground had entered into his possession. The first storage pouch he opened belonged to Zhang Kong, and with a sweep of his divine perception, he instantly knew of everything that was within the storage pouch. In this storage pouch, besides large amounts of low-grade yellow-rank magic treasures, 400,000 kilograms of spirit liquid, and a small hill of medicinal pills and spirit materials, there was a cultivation technique called the Shadow Devil Movement Technique and a talisman that was coiled in the glow of a treasure. Instantly, Xianxia's gaze shot onto the talisman. The paper of the talisman was pliable like a gold leaf, and it emitted a gentle and dense gold light. There was a row of angular words on the top, and Xianxia was unable to recognize what type of runes it was. Celestial fighters, arrange yourselves and march forward? Ling Bai spoke the pronunciation of the runes on the talisman in one go, and it was obscure and peculiar, yet it revealed a serious feeling that was solemn and awe-inspiring. What's this? Xianxia was bewildered. If I'm not wrong, this should be the soul suppression runes used by the ancient Buddhist sect. These words are the 9 syllables of truth of the Buddhist sect. Ling Bai spoke slowly, and his voice carried a trace of shock. Supposedly, every one of these 9 syllables of truth contains a supreme divine ability of the Buddhist sect, and it's extremely formidable and mysterious. But I've only heard my master mention it, and this is the first time that I'm seeing the real soul suppression runes of the Buddhist sect. I used a proper translation of the 9 words in the form of a sentence instead of splitting them one by one because doing that would only make many words repetitive and the end product would be confusing. Buddhist sect? Xianxia was extremely astonished. He'd once heard that there was such a special cultivation sect during the primordial era. Its disciples wore cloth garments, had bald heads and bare feet. They recited Buddhist scriptures, practiced chanting all day and night, and they possessed wisdom that was deep like the sea, and boundless ability. But this type of Buddhist sect had vanished a million years ago. It was as if it had evaporated into thin air, and the inheritance of the sect was buried into the annals of history. Presently, the matters related to the Buddhist sect had already become a purely imaginary legend. The Buddhist sect's 9 syllables of truth soul suppression runes. Could it be that these fellows wanted to rely on it to acquire this Buddha's trial pagoda? Xianxia was bewildered. Buddhas? I remember now. Ling Bai said excitedly. The word Buddhas means that it's a Buddhist pagoda. During the primordial era, the location the Buddhist sect passed down its lessons couldn't do so without a Buddhist pagoda. If I'm not wrong, this Buddha's trial pagoda is a Buddhist sect immortal artifact. She came to a sudden understanding. If it's like this, then it's extremely easy to understand. This 9 syllables of truth soul suppression runes is surely the key to subduing this pagoda. It's indeed so. Presently, only you remain in this pagoda. You'll surely be transported to the highest layer, the oneness layer, and you'll perhaps be able to use this talisman. Ling Bai said excitedly, if you're really able to acquire this pagoda, then it's equivalent to you obtaining an immortal artifact. An immortal artifact. It's a terrifying existence that's able to annihilate an entire minor world. Don't get happy too early. This Buddha's pagoda is already broken, and I don't know when I'll be able to repair it. She shook his head. Not to mention I utterly don't know how to repair it, and this Zhan Kong storage pouch doesn't any method related to repairing this pagoda. It doesn't matter, take it slow. Even if it's an empty shell of an immortal artifact, it's still able to make countless people fight to the death over it, and it's extraordinarily rare. Ling Bai grinned as he spoke. She smiled, and he anticipated it extremely in his heart as well. At this moment, he was just waiting to enter the highest layer of the Buddha's trial pagoda. When she was communicating with Ling Bai via voice transmission, it was another scene outside the pagoda. Everyone present had an expression of shock as their chests rapidly rose and fell. They wanted to cheer, yet were unable to open their mouths even after a long time, and their expressions looked to be strange and embarrassed. They were embarrassed indeed. For a period of time earlier, they'd thought that she had colluded with those villains and had become a traitor that helped the evil commit evil, and he was a heinous criminal. They wished for nothing more than to tear she into thousands of pieces before burning his bones and scattering his ashes. However, at this moment, when they saw she annihilate all the villains without the slightest hesitation, they understood that they were greatly mistaken, and they wanted to cheer for Shi yet were unable to open their mouths. It would be weird if they weren't embarrassed. Duanmuze had an extremely happy mood. Yet he didn't forgive them for their mistake and mocked. Humph! These idiotic fellows are really extremely laughable. They deserve being strung along by others for their entire lives. Well said. Song Lin spoke with great commendation. All right, they were deluded by Su Jintian as well. Du Qingxi couldn't help but smile. When she saw she display invincible might to annihilate all the villains, she felt honored because of him, and had a feeling of proudness and happiness. Good. Such a divine ability is virtually comparable to the strength of a fiend god from the primordial era. On the Jade platform, the Wandering Cloud Sword Sex Master exclaimed. As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly won the approval of the leaders of the various powers. Earlier, Fei Lingcue and the other 200-plus people were unable to withstand those villains and were forced to flee from the pagoda. Now, she had instead easily annihilated 32 villains by himself. When the two were compared, it naturally made Shi's abilities seem even more shocking. The leaders of the various powers were all people with extremely discerning eyes, and they naturally were able to discern that at the heart of the matter. The reason she was so formidable was that the might of the divine ability he executed was too terrifying. It had crushed a few tens of top-grade yellow-rank magic treasures with a single strike, and such a formidable divine ability was something that even they had only seen for the first time. So they were naturally extremely amazed. Only the Su clan's patriarch, Su Jintian, had an extremely gloomy expression. The greater the achievements Shi's made, the more uncomfortable he would be, and the more he would hate Shi in his heart. At this moment, when he heard the praise of the various leaders towards Shi, it was simply like a sharp sword had stabbed his heart. So don't even mention the grievance and rage in his heart. These damnable things. There were so many of them. Yet they were actually unable to kill a single person. In the shadows far away from the Buddha's trial pagoda, Hall Master Fan, whose entire body was concealed in a black robe, spoke with an icy cold voice. Hall Master Fan. In my opinion, they can't be blamed for what happened this time, as the opponent's strength was too strong, and even I felt extreme fear as I watched. But now that the 9 syllables of truth soul suppression talisman has fallen into his hands, it's indeed an extremely great trouble. That's a priceless treasure of the Buddhist sect that the Lord racked his brains and went through many hardships in order to obtain. If we lose it, I'm afraid. The nearby Feng Ming, who was similarly covered in a black robe, spoke carefully. Humph. I naturally know the consequences. Hall Master Fan grunted coldly. Even if he subdues the pagoda by relying on the soul suppression runes, he wouldn't know how to repair it. Can't we just find a chance to come into contact with him, and then we'll kill him and seize the soul suppression talisman and the Buddha's trial pagoda? Hall Master Fan, what you said is absolutely correct. Feng Ming carefully smiled obsequiously. I only hope that he's able to retain the Buddha's trial pagoda, as a man's wealth is his own ruin by causing greed in others. Perhaps when he acquires the Buddha's trial pagoda under the gazes of everyone present, it would be the time of his death, and that would really be troublesome. Hall Master Fan sighed lightly. The highest layer in the Buddha's trial pagoda, the oneness layer. This place was a space that only covered 300 m. Its walls were carved with a blissful scene of soaring dragons flying up and down in the sky, blooming golden lotuses, and heavenly flowers fluttering about in the sky. A barefooted monk wearing cloth clothes rode on the back of the dragon, holding a smile on his face as he sat between the golden lotuses, and a lifelike holy light flowed about, revealing a profound sense of kindness, peace, freedom, and rejoice. Perhaps this is the holy land of the Buddhist sect in the legends. As expected, it's different from other cultivation sects and forms its own atmosphere and world. When Xianxia was transported in, he was drawn to the scenes on the walls and the surroundings, and as he looked at the various auspicious, happy, and beautiful scenes, he marveled at it endlessly in his heart. After silently observing for a short moment, Xianxia's gaze swept out unintentionally and was instantly drawn by a rock that was as tall as a person at the center of the oneness layer. This rock was like a mountain that had been shrunk countless times, and when looked at carefully, he was even able to see the ridges on the mountain that grew higher and higher, streams and waterfalls, precipices, green pines, and various other extraordinary sights. Moreover, at the center of the rock wall facing him was the words Mount Meru written on it, and it vaguely emitted strands of the aura of light, solemnness, and peace. The auras were indistinct and wispy, and if he didn't carefully sense it, it would really be difficult for Xianxia to notice it. Could it be that this rock is called Mount Meru? Xianxia said in astonishment. Right at this moment, Xianxia suddenly felt a trace of vibration coming from within his storage ring. When he looked to check, the 9 syllable of truth soul suppression runes talisman seemed to have become alive, and it emitted a gentle and extremely pure gold light. Could it be that the key to subduing this pagoda is this rock that's like a mountain? Xianxia thought in his heart as the soul suppression runes talisman instantly flew out. Whoosh! Before Xianxia could react, this talisman had descended onto the rock and covered the words Mount Meru. Instantly, the entire Mount Meru started to shake abruptly. It was like a god that had been in deep slumber for thousands of years had awoken, and a strand of extremely pure, thick, and peaceful aura gushed out with a bang to taint the entire oneness layer with a layer of bright golden light. Xianxia noticed to his shock that the lifelike scenes on the walls on all sides seemed to have really come to life. Heavenly flowers rained from the sky, golden lotuses sprang up from the ground, and dragons whistled through the clouds as it danced about gracefully in the sky. Waves of ancient, obscure, solemn Buddhist chanting shot out from the walls and resounded in the entire oneness layer. Everything is brought about by fate, yet fate never lasts, and neither does everything brought about by it. Master Buddha often reminds us, seek wisdom instead of being caught up in the pursuit of fate. Amongst this chanting that was like the tinkling of the bell in a monastery, Xianxia was in a trance and seemed to have entered a different world. It was a world eternally illuminated by holy lights, the entire world a supreme place of happiness that was covered in peace and joy. Golden lotuses springing out as heavenly flowers rained down and could be seen everywhere. Numerous monks with peaceful expressions could be seen between the mountains and rivers or by the flowers, and they sat within the base of the lotus as they imparted knowledge and prayers and comprehended profound ways of Buddhism. Heavenly dragons and golden phoenixes spiraled in the sky as they fluttered and danced about. Gods and ordinary people stood with smiles on their faces, and all of them were naturally satisfied, feeling inexplicable happiness, feeling inexplicable freedom, and they lived a life of ease and leisure with overflowing joy. As he was immersed in this profound and unspeakable realm, the corners of Xianxia's mouth slightly curved to reveal a light smile, and a trace of a peaceful and calm bearing silently emerged from his body. However, outside of the Buddha's trial pagoda, everyone only saw Xianxia standing senselessly and quietly in the oneness layer like a puppet that had fallen to be possessed by the devil, and it was also like he'd lost his own soul. Bang! A muffled sound that was like a thunderclap exploded out in the heaven and earth, and then everyone noticed to their astonishment that the entire Buddha's trial pagoda that was extremely tall was actually shrinking and shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Lord was right. The Soul Suppression Runes talisman is really a supreme talisman of truth that is able to refine any Buddhist treasure. In the shadows extremely far away, Hall Master Fan, who was covered in her black robe, muttered to herself, "Hall Master Fan, we must not allow this talisman to fall into the hands of that kid. Otherwise, when the Lord gets angry, neither you nor I am able to bear the consequences." Feng Ming looked at the pagoda that ceaselessly shrunk as he spoke with a complicated tone. "Of course, if he doesn't hand it over obediently, then I'll kill him and extract his soul before confining it within a soul-refining lantern and make him suffer torture forever." Hall Master Fan spoke coldly. "OM." A strange sound that was like the sound of a bell abruptly resounded out, and then everyone felt their vision go blur before the entire Buddha's trial pagoda had completely vanished. In the spot that it vanished, Xianxia stood all alone there with his eyes closed and holding a smile on the corners of his mouth, and his entire body emitted a trace of a tranquil and peaceful aura. Could it be? This fellow has subdued the Buddha's trial pagoda. How could that be possible? The Buddha's trial pagoda has already been standing erect here since a few thousand years ago. Although it's a damaged immortal artifact, which of the people that set their eyes on it during all these years didn't go home empty-handed? It ought to be correct. It's this fellow that has subdued it. Otherwise, it wouldn't vanish without reason nor rhyme. Damn it! The Buddha's trial pagoda is gone. How will Dragon Lake City conduct the hidden dragon rankings in the future? The Buddha's trial pagoda that was practically impossible to subdue in the hearts of every single cultivator of Dragon Lake City had suddenly strangely vanished before their eyes, and besides shock, it instantly caused a wave of shocked exclamations and animated discussion. Why is it like this? Xianxia has brought great calamity to himself this time. Du Qingxi spoke with a frown. This kid is really too daring. He took away the Buddha's trial pagoda before the eyes of so many people. How can the leaders of the various powers of Dragon Lake City endure this? Duanmu Zhe laughed bitterly. He has indeed brought great calamity to himself. It was fine when no one was able to subdue the Buddha's trial pagoda, but once it's subdued, it has instantly become a hot treasure. As the saying goes, as a man's wealth is his own ruin by causing greed in others. Xianxia's led fire onto his body this time. Song Lin's brows frowned tightly together as he spoke with worry. "Little thief, you actually dare to brazenly seize my Dragon Lake City's Buddha's trial pagoda? Where do you place your respect for us? Hand it over obediently." Right at this moment, an explosive shout abruptly sounded out from atop the jade platform, and then everyone saw that the figure of the Su clan's patriarch, Su Jintian, flashed out, transforming into a wisp of a black shadow as he stretched out his hand to grab towards the distant Xianxia. At practically the same instant that Su Jintian made a move, the Starnet Palace's sect master, Tai Yunzi, Song Clan's patriarch, Song Xiaolong, and the Myriad Cloud Institution's dean, Zhang Zhenyu, attacked brazenly as well. Instantly, for Rebirth Realm cultivators moved out in unison, and they moved to surround Xianxia from all directions before everyone could react to what had happened. Rumble. The instant these four figures attacked, even the sky was shaken, to the point layer upon layer of ripples undulated out wherever their figures passed. That level of strength was already formidable to a considerably terrifying extent. These four great leaders that were at the sect master level suddenly attacking had practically exceeded the expectations of everyone present. No one had imagined that they, who were such respected identities, would actually lose their composure to such an extent, and disregard both status and situation to jointly attack Xianxia. The figures of Su Jintian's group of four were swift like lightning, to an unparalleled extent. At almost the exact instant the sound resounded out, the four of them had rushed down the jade platform, and they obviously had planned it since long ago. Moreover, all of them had a cultivation at the rebirth realm. At this moment, when they brazenly attacked, the terrifying aura that exploded out from their bodies was like a boundless ocean that swept out, causing everyone below the jade platform to feel suffocated. Instantly, all of them were thrown flying in all directions, and they were simply like leaves blown upon by autumn wind, easily swept away. The distant Xianxia, who had his eyes closed and held a smile on his face, felt a feeling of extreme danger gush into his heart, a blood-curdling feeling, causing him to abruptly sober up from the peaceful and happy state, and then he saw the figures of Su Jintian and the other four people mixed with auras that were terrifying to the extreme as they flashed explosively towards him. Just the auras that gushed out from their bodies caused Xianxia to feel a terrifying pressure that he was unable to break free from. What's going? How did I come out from the oneness layer of the pagoda? Xianxia hadn't wrapped his head around it yet when he received a thought that Ling Bai sent over within his mind. Move aside quickly. These four fellows are rebirth realm experts. You're taken away the Buddha's trial pagoda, so how could they possibly let you off? In practically a tenth of an instant, Xianxia instantly understood his current situation, and his expression immediately became extremely unsightly. Su Jintian's group of four had surrounded him from four directions as their formidable auras firmly locked onto him, and four strands of terrifying pressure that only rebirth realm cultivators were able to possess pressed down towards him from all directions. He felt like he was a piece of straw on the boundless ocean. He was only able to barely withstand the terrifying pressure by circulating his cultivation with his entire strength, and as for resisting or perhaps escaping, it was something that was utterly impossible. This was the extremely great difference in cultivation realms. No matter how outstanding Xianxia's combat strength was, how high his comprehension ability, or how formidable the divine abilities he possessed were, and even if he could annihilate Golden Hall realm cultivators and escape from the hands of Golden Core realm cultivators, but when he was facing rebirth realm cultivators that were 2 realms above him, he was weak to the point he was simply like an ant, dead with a single stomp. Not to mention, before him was 4 rebirth realm cultivators that were attacking him in unison, and it was 4 titans using their fingers to smash an ant together. How could he possibly have any room to struggle? This was the first time that Xianxia felt so powerless, that his strength was so insufficient, and felt the despair of being on the verge of death. Xianxia was in danger. Du Qingxi closed her eyes, Duanmu Zhe's face warped, Song Lin's pupils constricted, and Chen Haobit opened his lips. This scene happened too quickly, to the point it caused them to be utterly unable to react to it, and they were utterly unable to take any action as well. Only in the eyes of Su Jiao did a trace of excited joy flash, as her enmity with Xianxia was extremely deep, and she wished for nothing more than for Xianxia to be killed at her father's hand right away. So this scene conformed extremely to her intentions. Die! Su Jintian flashed to arrive above Xianxia, and as he looked at Xianxia, who was a short distance away, killing intent that was impossible to restrain gushed out from his heart, and the rage in his heart urged him to wish for nothing more than to instantly smash the person before him into mush. Su Clan's patriarch, Su Jintian, Starnet Palace's sect master, Tai Yunzi, Song Clan's patriarch, Song Xiaolong, and Myriad Cloud Institution's dean, Jiang Zhenyu. I'll remember all of you. Even if I die, I'll drag all of you down with me. A trace of ruthlessness flashed within Xianxia's eyes. He wanted to detonate his entire cultivation, and every single one of them he brought down with him counted. It was at this exceedingly dangerous moment that Xianxia felt his vision blur, and a figure had already appeared before him. Before he could even discern who it was, he heard 4 bangs that were like muffled thunder explode out. Then Su Jintian's group of 4 who'd flashed over from 4 directions had actually been slapped flying more than 100 meters by a flick of this person's sleeve, and their figures were in an extremely sorry state. Hiss! This sudden scene was simply like a thunderclap emerging from flat ground. It instantly caused the hearts of everyone present to shake, and they almost didn't dare believe their eyes. That was a joint attack from 4 Rebirth Realm cultivators. How could it possibly be so easily dealt with? At this moment, Xianxia had clearly seen who the person that arrived was as well. This person wore an azure robe and held a feather fan in his hand. He was warm like jade, handsome and refined. Shockingly, it was precisely the Wandering Cloud Sword Sex Taoist Wuxia, a great nether transformation realm cultivator who wasn't well known, due to being in seclusion all year long. It's actually Taoist Wuxia. No wonder he's able to destroy the pincer attack of Su Jintian's group of 4 with a single strike. Ah, I seem to have heard before that there's a nether transformation realm expert that lives in seclusion in the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect. It wouldn't be this senior before us, right? So it's an expert at the nether transformation realm. Formidable. So formidable. When they saw that the mysterious person that had appeared suddenly was actually the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's nether transformation realm expert, Taoist Wuxia, who'd practically shut himself off from the outside world, the expressions of the people present instantly possessed an extra strand of admiration, reverence, and adoration. But to Su Jintian, Tai Yunzi, Song Xiaolong, and Jiang Zhenyu, besides causing them to be surprised and bewildered, Wuxia's appearance also caused them to feel a wave of rage. They were just about to annihilate Xianxia and seize the immortal artifact, Buddha's pagoda. Yet a nether transformation realm expert had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. How could they feel well in their hearts? Master! Chun Hao flew over and bowed in greeting. Your display in the Hidden Dragon rankings this time wasn't bad. Stand aside and watch first. I'll bring you back to the sect later. Wuxia fanned the feathers fan in his hand as he smiled warmly. Okay. Chun Hao nodded, and then he arrived at Xianxia's side and asked, Brother, are you all right? Xianxia shook his head. Then he looked at Su Jintian's group of 4, and he didn't conceal the hatred in his gaze in the slightest. If it wasn't for Taoist Wuxia arriving in a timely manner, he would have almost been forced by these 4 people to the end of detonating his cultivation and dying on the spot. It was like walking a circle in hell. His feeling of helplessness, rage, and unwillingness had all transformed into a belly full of hatred, and he'd already decided in his heart, once his strength became stronger, he would surely obliterate these extremely despicable and shameless people. Master? Taoist Wuxia was actually the master of Xianxia's younger brother? No wonder he would lend a hand. When they saw Chun Hao greet Taoist Wuxia, the people present instantly revealed an expression of sudden understanding, and then they were shocked in their hearts. Xianxia's younger brother has actually become a nether transformation realm expert's disciple? Then wouldn't it mean that he's of the same seniority as the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's master? Martial Uncle Wuxia. Seeming to be for the sake of verifying the guesses in everyone's hearts, Ling Kongzi flew down from the jade platform right away to arrive before Taoist Wuxia and bowed in greeting before looking at Chun Hao and saying with a smile, I was originally intending on promoting you to an elite disciple after the Hidden Dragon rankings this time. Now there's no need, as you've already become my little junior brother. Haha! Chun Hao was extremely clever as well, and he bowed as he called out, Chun Hao greets senior brother. Good, haha. This is senior brother's greeting gift. A top-grade yellow rank magic treasure, azure flame sword. Ling Kongzi smiled as he spoke. Then he withdrew an azure-colored flying sword that emitted a dense aura of flames, and he passed it over to Chen Hao. Humph! Your Wandering Cloud Sword Sect is playing a nice trick. Winning over Xianxia's younger brother is equivalent to indirectly obtaining the Immortal artifact, Buddha's Trial Pagoda in Xianxia's possession. Do all of you think that the fellow Taoists present aren't able to see through this? In the distance, Su Jintian sneered. Exactly, that Buddha's Trial Pagoda is something that's commonly owned by the various powers of my Dragon Lake City. Now, it has instead been monopolized by your Wandering Cloud Sword Sect, and all of us will absolutely not agree to it. The Starnet Palace's sect master, Tai Yunzi, echoed with Su Jintian. Exactly, we won't agree as well. The Song clan's patriarch, Song Xiaolong, and the myriad cloud institution's dean, Jiang Zhenyu, spoke at the same moment. Instantly, these four parties had joined together to speak out in opposition towards the Wandering Cloud Sword sect at the same time, causing the surrounding atmosphere to instantly become heavy, and they seemed to be ready to jump at each other's throat. It was even to the extent that countless thought gushed out in the hearts of the various leaders that were spectating from the Jade platform. However, for fear of Taoist Wenxian's monstrous might, they still chose to spectate. But it could be ascertained that they would absolutely not be willing to watch idly by as the Buddha's trial pagoda entered into the hands of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect. The treasures in the heaven and earth belong to those who are fated. The Buddha's trial pagoda has stood erect here for almost 7,000 years. So why didn't all of you subdue it? Now all of you are instead disregarding your bearings, bullying the small, and forcefully seizing treasures in a brazen manner. Even I feel ashamed for all of you. Taoist Wenxian fanned the feather fan in his hand as he spoke with disdain. Humph! All of us are doing this due to righteous indignation and are unable to endure the pagoda falling into the hands of an outsider. How could it be bullying the small? Su Jintian spoke with a gloomy face. Taoist Wenxian, as a senior, you're instead making it difficult for us in all respects. And isn't it because you covet this pagoda as well? That kid must hand over the Buddha's trial pagoda today. Otherwise, the various fellow Taoists of our Dragon Lake City will not agree to it. What if he doesn't hand it over? Taoist Wenxian lightly smiled, and a trace of a cold light flashed within his eyes. Then don't blame all of us for being rude. Su Jintian spoke with a cold smile on his face. Others are afraid of you, Taoist Wenxian, yet I, Su Jintian, am unafraid. Today, not only must that kid hand over the Buddha's trial pagoda, he must also pay with his life for the clansmen of my Su clan that have passed away. Taoist Wenxian, I presume your Wandering Cloud Sword sect isn't willing to go into battle with the Su clan, Song clan, Starnet Palace, and Myriad Cloud Institution, right? Threatening me? The smile on Taoist Wenxian's face disappeared, and his refined face was suffused with a trace of killing intent. This isn't a threat. Chun Shi isn't a disciple of Dragon Lake City, and he's completely unrelated to your Wandering Cloud Sword sect. Since it's like this, why are you forcefully standing out for an outsider? Taoist Wenxian. Su Jintian said with an emotionless face. Not to mention, we're asking for the Buddha's trial pagoda, yet we don't require to make it our own. The various powers of our Dragon Lake City are completely capable of discussing a way to deal with it together, and then we can share this immortal artifact equally. I presume that the other leaders present would be happy to see this scene. Brother Su, great move. You want to bind all of us together to put pressure on the Wandering Cloud Sword sect. On the Jade platform, a black-robed middle-aged man with a dignified expression said extremely coldly, My Du clan thinks that since this treasure was fortunate enough to be subdued by little brother Chun Shi, then it ought to belong to him. As the saying goes, the treasures in the heaven and earth belong to those who are fated. We can't commit the despicable deed of forcefully seizing treasures. This person was the Du clan's patriarch, Du Wuyuan. My Song clan thinks like this as well, said the Song clan's patriarch, Song Wenchong. My Duanmu clan supports the opinion of brother Du. The Duanmu clan's patriarch, Duanmu Yunkong, spoke out as well. The Du clan, Song clan, and Duanmu clan had spoken out in unison, and the situation instantly changed once more. The three clans were faintly together with the Wandering Cloud Sword sect to oppose Su Jintian's group of 4 clans. This scene caused everyone present to be bewildered. Their heads spun, and they were secretly extremely shocked in their hearts. Isn't Chun Shi a cultivator from outside the city? How has he obtained the great help of so many powers? Only Chun Shi himself understood that it was surely Du Qingshi's group of 3 that had played a role in affecting the attitude of the clans behind them. When he thought up to hear, Chun Shi raised his eyes to look, and as expected, he saw Du Qingshi, Duanmu Zhe, and Song Lin waving towards him, causing him to be unable to refrain from lightly smiling as a strand of warmth arose in his heart. Humph! We can argue about the Buddha's trial pagoda later, but this kid's life must be taken to offer sacrifice to the souls of the members of my Su clan that have passed away. Right at this moment, A sharp and ear-piercing loud shout sounded out, and then everyone saw a ball of bloody clouds roil as it approached from the distance. It transformed into an old man with hair that hung loosely on his shoulders, and an emaciated and gloomy face that stepped down from midair as if he was stepping on a shapeless flight of stairs. Every step he took caused a trace of intense fluctuation to appear in the sky, and his body surged out with a tyrannical aura that was like a rolling river pressing down onto everyone, causing all the people present to go pale. Su clan's ancestor, Su Ingkong. It's actually this old goat. No wonder his aura is so overbearing. Supposedly, he'd gone into closed-door training to comprehend the nether transformation realm 1,000 years ago. Now that he's made an appearance this time, could it be that he's already become a nether transformation realm expert? This is just great. Even the Su clan's ancestor has stood out. I'm afraid it will impossible for Xianxia to escape his doom. Indeed. He didn't mention the Buddha's trial pagoda, and only came for the sake of his clansman's revenge. Xianxia is an outsider after all, so out of respect to the Su clan's ancestor, it wouldn't be good for anyone to obstruct him. When they saw the red-robed and emaciated old man appear, the people present burst into an uproar once more, and besides being shocked, they couldn't help but start to speculate about Xianxia's fate. Greetings, ancestor. Congratulations, ancestor, for advancing to the nether transformation realm and achieving great enlightenment of the heaven and the earth. Su Jintian bowed as he spoke, and his gaze glanced towards Taoist Wenxian, who was opposite of him, and he couldn't help but sneer endlessly. In Dragon Lake City, if it was said that rebirth realm cultivators stood at the peak, then figures at the nether transformation realm were existences that were above worldly considerations. Only a few powers among the 8 great sects, 3 great institutions, and 6 great sects possessed a nether transformation realm expert that was able to deter all the powers in its surroundings with the expert's terrifying strength. As far as Su Jintian was concerned, the appearance of the ancestor today was undoubtedly just perfect. Not only was he able to proclaim the hidden resources, hidden reserves, and the strength of the Su clan to everyone, he was also able to pin down Taoist Wenxian, causing Taoist Wenxian to not dare act willfully anymore, and it could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Most importantly, at this moment, the Su clan urgently required this strength to deter the powers in its surroundings. Because after Xianxia annihilated the 6 Golden Hall realm cultivators and 1 Golden Core realm cultivator of the Su clan, the entire strength of the Su clan had been weakened by a small portion. Moreover, in the Buddha's trial pagoda today, almost all of the top disciples of the Su clan's younger generation had been buried, and the Su clan could be said to have been injured greatly, to the point it had already drawn the covetous gazes and aroused restlessness in the other great powers. Under these circumstances of having troubles both internally and externally, a nether transformation realm expert appearing from the Su clan undoubtedly provided the Su clan the ability to deter the various powers, and those that wanted to take advantage of the Su clan's circumstances would have to consider the consequences of offending a nether transformation realm expert. Advance to the nether transformation realm? As soon as Su Jintian finished speaking, the eyes of the leaders of the various powers squinted as their expression turned surprised and doubtful. Wenxian, hand over that kid. You have no ties with him. Don't affect the harmonious relationship between our 2 powers because of him. At the instant the Su clan's ancestor appeared, he shot his gaze towards Taoist Wenxian as he spoke indifferently. Humph. You've only just advanced to the nether transformation realm, yet you dare flaunt your prowess before me. Taoist Wenxian grunted coldly. If it wasn't for there being many people here, and me being worried about injuring the innocent, I'd kill you right now. Su Ingkong's face sank as he said slowly. If it was before, I'd slightly fear you indeed. But I've advanced to the nether transformation realm now, and I've even bound an extremely formidable treasure. If you, Wenxian, aren't afraid of death, then feel free to try me. An extremely formidable treasure? Wenxian suddenly thought of something and spoke in astonishment. It wouldn't be the 36 violet lightning azurals? Su Ingkong laughed loudly as he said, I never imagined that you, Wenxian, knew of this treasure of my Su clan as well. Exactly, I've already bound all 36 violet lightning azurals, and I've condensed them into a violet lightning azure sword which is already a quasi-immortal artifact. Wenxian, Do you still have the confidence to defeat me now? The expressions of everyone turned to an expression of astonishment when they heard this, and they were extremely shocked in their hearts. Ling Bai, what's a quasi-immortal artifact? Xianxia frowned as he sent a voice transmission. A magic treasure that's more formidable than a top-grade heaven-rank magic treasure and already possesses the potential to advance to become an immortal artifact is called a quasi-immortal artifact. But not to mention another transformation realm expert, even a true heavenly immortal has to spend at least a few thousands of years of bitter refining to bind a quasi-immortal artifact and advance it into a real immortal artifact. Ling Bai swiftly explained. Xianxia instantly understood. No wonder the Su clan's ancestor was so confident from possessing a quasi-immortal artifact. Even though he'd only just advanced into the nether transformation realm, he already possessed the ability to battle Taoist Wuxia. The magic treasures in the cultivation world were divided into the yellow, profound, earth, and heaven rank. Every rank was further divided into the low grade, intermediate grade, high grade, and top grade. A heaven rank magic treasure was already the existence with the strongest might below an immortal artifact, and Su Zhentian's Violet Lightning Azure Sword possessing the might of a quasi-immortal artifact was indeed extremely formidable. When Xian, think about it. Su Yingkong smiled lightly when he saw Xian go silent, and then he said with an unhurried voice, "Is it worth for the sake of an outsider? Do you think I'm afraid of you?" When Xian said with surprise, "You're really laughable. You feel you're undefeatable in the world because you possess a quasi-immortal artifact." Su Yingkong's expression instantly became unsightly. "I really want to know. Why exactly are you, Xian, protecting this kid in all respects?" Because, before Xian could finish speaking, an aged voice abruptly sounded out unhurriedly in the heaven and earth. "Because he's the brother of I Bei Hung. Understand?" Along with this voice, a gray-clothed and gray-haired old man seemed as if he teleported as he swiftly appeared before Su Yingkong, and then swung over 10 resounding slaps onto Su Yingkong's face, causing Su Yingkong's face to instantly become red and swollen. Everyone present in the surroundings was dumbstruck when they saw this scene, shocked into speechlessness. Another transformation realm expert was violently slapped over 10 times by another, yet was actually unable to resist in the slightest. My God, this isn't real, right? This shock they felt from this scene had even surpassed the time Taoist when Xian blasted for Rebirth Realm Cultivator back with a flick of his sleeve and caused them to almost not dare believe their eyes. Amongst the people present, only Xianxia had a normal expression, because he knew this big brother Bei Hung of his possessed this level of strength. Exactly, this person was the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's Supreme Grand Elder, the Master of Taoist Wuxia, the earthly immortal realm expert, Bei Hung. "I originally intended to kill you, but out of respect for your older brother that has passed away, I'll let you off today." Bei Hung casually tossed out, tossing Su Yingkong out as if he was throwing out the trash. Then his figure swayed, and he'd already arrived before Xianxia before saying with a smile, "Older brother has come late, and I've caused you to suffer great injustice." Xianxia shook his head and smiled. "It isn't to the extent of suffering and injustice. I only feel that my strength is too weak, causing me to require Big Brother's help at every turn, and I feel extremely sorry." Bei Hung waved his hand. "This is nothing, you don't have to be polite to family." Disciple Ling Kongzi greets Grand Ancestor Bei Hung. Disciple Xian greets Master. The Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's Master, Ling Kongzi, and Taoist Xian seized this opportunity to move forward and greet him with extreme respect. The people present seemed as if they were struck by lightning when they saw this scene, and they were completely stunned. That old man with gray clothes and gray hair is actually the Grand Ancestor of the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's Master? The Master of Taoist Wuxia? All this was still nothing. What caused everyone to be unable to accept was this: such an extremely respected figure was actually Xianxia's brother. Wouldn't that mean that even the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's Master, Ling Kongzi, had to address Xianxia as Grand Ancestor, and Taoist Wuxia had to respectfully address Xianxia as Martial Uncle? The minds of everyone present was completely in disorder, and all of them stared their eyes wide open as they stood dumbstruck on the spot. This fellow, he really concealed it deeply. Duamuze, Du Qingxi, and Song Lin were all flabbergasted, and it was as if they didn't know Chen Shi. How can this be possible? How can he possibly be brothers with the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect's Supreme Grand Elder? Su Jiao's countenance went pale with a swish. She was waiting for her ancestor, Su Kong, to successfully capture Chen Shi so that she could humiliate and torture Chen Shi in every possible way. Yet reality played an extremely brutal joke on her. As she looked at the Su clan's ancestor who'd fainted from extreme terror and rage, the pillars of support in Su Jiao's heart seemed to want to collapse. She was truly unable to believe how an ant, that she could practically squash to death with a flip of her hand 2 years ago, had actually undergone such a change now. Not only had his cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, he was even able to become brothers with the Supreme Grand Elder of the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect. But no matter how unwilling she was to believe this, the facts were the facts, and it wouldn't change in the slightest from anyone's unwillingness to believe it. Her father, Su Zhentian's, feelings were similar to hers, and even surpassed hers. Su Zhentian placed his hopes on his ancestor to deter the various powers of Dragon Lake City, and to capture Chen Shi to take revenge for the clansmen that had passed away. How could he have imagined that the ancestor would be slapped by someone, to the point that the ancestor fainted? The hope in his heart was instantly obliterated, and he could even foresee that after this day, it would probably be difficult for the Su clan to hold their heads high in Dragon Lake City any longer. Greetings, Supreme Grand Elder. The Wandering Cloud Sword Sect disciples present, such as Fei Lengsue, Qing Luo, Chan Hao, and the other 1,000+ people seemed as if they'd awoken from a dream and knelt on the ground with a bang before speaking in unison. Bei Heng's gaze swept the surroundings as he spoke indifferently. The person beside me is my sworn brother, Chen Shi. In the future, anyone who offends him is offending me, Bei Heng. So don't blame me for being merciless. Whoosh! The gazes of everyone present shot onto Chen Shi in unison, and the faces of everyone revealed an expression of shock and envy. The Wandering Cloud Sword Sect was the #1 power in Dragon Lake City, and even the entire Southern Territory, and Bei Heng was the Supreme Grand Elder of the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect. In the future, who would dare offend a person that was sworn as a brother by Bei Heng? At this moment, as he looked at the shock in the eyes of everyone present in the surroundings, as he looked at all the Su clan members whose faces had turned ashen, and as he looked ahead at Bei Heng who stood with his hands behind his back, a wave of emotion couldn't help but emerge in his heart. A single person was able to cause a myriad of people to feel reverence, and didn't everything before his eyes the best explanation for the saying, power and influence that dashed to the sky? Little brother, let's go. I've already selected a peak suitable for cultivation in the sect for you. Let's go take a look. Bei Heng laughed loudly as he pulled Chen Shi's arm and walked up into the sky. From the beginning until the end, he didn't pay the slightest attention to anyone present again, and it seemed as if in Bei Heng's eyes, only Chen Shi was worthy of such treatment from him. I never imagined that this fellow's backing was an earthly immortal. Looks like it isn't just difficult to seize the 9 syllables of Truth Soul Suppression Rune's talisman and the Buddha's pagoda from him. Never mind, I'll make contact with him first. If worst comes to worst, I'll flee right after I kill him. In the shadows in the extreme distance, Hall Master Fan, who was covered in a black robe, spoke with a serious tone. Hall Master Fan, that kid has followed Bei Heng back to the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect. How should we make contact with him? Feng Ming felt his throat become slightly dry, as the greatness of Chen Shi's backing caused him to feel extremely shocked, and he faintly had the thought of giving up. Wait! I don't believe that he'll stay in the Wandering Cloud Sword Sect and not come out for his entire life. Hall Master Fan gnashed her teeth and said, We've lost the Soul Suppression Rune's talisman, and compared with the punishment of the Lord, I'd rather go offend an earthly immortal. Hall Master Fan, you're right. Then let's put up in Dragon Lake City, and we must seize the talisman back from him even if we have to wait a few years. When the Lord was mentioned, Feng Ming seemed to have recalled some scenes that were unbearable, and he couldn't help but shudder. He knew clearly in his heart that if they were unable to retrieve the talisman, then the most terrifying torture in the world would probably be waiting for them. Up to this point, The Dragon Lake City's hidden dragon rankings for this year had come to an end because of the sudden appearance of Beihang. It had completely dispersed the thoughts of the various powers to seize the Buddha's pagoda in Xianxia's possession. It also proved in another way that earthly immortal realm experts really did exist in the Wandering Cloud Sword sect, and it wasn't just a legend. On this day, many things had occurred, yet there was always the figure of a person in all these things, and this person was Xianxia. He annihilated 96 Su clan top disciples by himself, slaughtered 32 mysterious and unknown cultivators, subdued the Buddha's trial pagoda, became sworn brothers with the supreme grand elder of the Wandering Cloud Sword sect. This youth that had walked out from Pine Mist City that was like a remote village seemed like a dazzling star that emitted boundless light on this day, and he was like the sun in the midday sky, causing others to be unable to forget him. It could be predicted that in the next few days, Xianxia's name and deeds were bound to spread throughout the entire Dragon Lake City and throughout the entire Southern Territory's cultivation world.